Mets have swung their way back into the big city after a road trip that started poorly but began successfully, finished up with 3 of 4 wins. The Mets are here to play the Reds, who are flying high right now, having won the National League Central 2 of the last 3 years. Joey Votto and company make their annual trip to Flushing. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Cincinnati Reds. Have a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets start an 8-game homestand with the first of 3 against the Cincinnati Reds. The bullpen, among other things, has been a concern for the Mets this season, but yesterday in Chicago, the bullpen was as good as it could possibly have been after Dylan Gee left the game.
Well, Terry Collins had to be happy yesterday. There's been a lot of ups and downs with the bullpen yesterday. As you said, Gary, perfect. But even when you look at the game, Greg Burke now, in his second trip up, has looked much better. Has made that little mechanical adjustment. Oh, and Scott Rice, of course, had to go 2 innings yesterday the way the lineup was. So he did a great job in his 25th game of the year, and Bobby Parnell has not been scored on in the entire month of May.
Well, they're going to have to be just as good in this series because the Cincinnati Reds are the second highest scoring team in the National League, and they get their ace pitcher back tonight. The Reds won the National League Central last year with 97 wins. They may be a better team this year.
Baseball players have a phrase about teams like this: this team can rake. And I'm talking from the top to the bottom. Chu has been a great addition from Cleveland. He gets on base seemingly every single time in the leadoff spot. Jay Bruce is really hot right now. Joey Votto just won Player of the Week, so it's going to be up to Mets pitchers to try to hold him down.
Now, Sean Markham struggled in his first 3 starts after coming off the disabled list for the Mets, and even though he didn't win in St. Louis, he looked much more like himself.
Yeah, he looked like himself in the way that he had low pitch innings. He had 4 of those innings where he was 1, 2, 3, something that he's got to do tonight. He mixed in every single pitch, and he really kind of dictated the at-bats more than the hitters dictating it to him.
The Cincinnati Reds are a team with more than one ace. They get one of them back tonight, Johnny Cueto, back from the disabled list.
Well, watching R.A. Dickey pitch here and win the Cy Young, you talk about all the great pitchers in the National League, Clayton Kershaw. No one mentions Johnny Cueto, who won 19 games last year. Outstanding, strikes out a lot of batters. Good thing for the Mets, though, very rarely has a good start against the Mets.
So the Mets return home tonight to take on the red-hot Cincinnati Reds. It's the Mets and Reds opening a 3-game series at Citi Field. All the action coming your way on SNY. Next time you plan a trip to the ballpark, head to StubHub, where you can find great seats and earn great rewards. Buy Cholula hot sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. Buy the New York Lottery. Buy your Tri-Honda dealer. Hurry to your local Tri-Honda dealer for great deals on the 2013 models. And buy Infinity, luxury cars that deliver inspired performance. Get to Citi Field this Friday night for a post-game fireworks show featuring the Mets and the Braves. It's presented by Dwayne Reed. Find the best prices at Mets.com at 718-507-TIXX. The only place to get tickets through game time. Here's your drive around the majors presented by Volkswagen this afternoon. Yan Gomes hit his second home run of the game, a 3-run shot in the bottom of the 10th. Indians continue to roll. That's 18 of their last 22 as they beat the Mariners 10-8. R.A. Dickey won his second straight start, 8 innings, 4 hits as the Jays beat the Rays 7-5. And Carlos Ruiz heading to the disabled list, so the Phillies going to have to play without him again. No matter, Eric Kratz hit a game-tying home run last night against Aroldis Chapman, his backup. Aerial coverage of tonight's game is brought to you by the Minions flying the Despicablimp and Universal's animated comedy Despicable Me 2 in theaters July 3rd. Sean Markham making his way in from the bullpen, looking for his first victory of the season as the Mets begin a homestand. First pitch coming up from Citi Field. Umpires. Tom Hallion has the plate tonight. He's the crew chief. Ron Culpa, Chris Guccione, and Phil Cuzzi rounding out the crew. Mets seeing the Reds for the first time this year. And here is Dusty Baker's starting lineup. Shin-Soo Choo, who came over from the Indians, and all he's doing is sitting second to his teammate Joey Votto in on-base percentage in the National League. Cesar Izturis subbing for the under-the-weather Zach Cozart for the second straight day at shortstop. New Jersey native Todd Frazier, who's having trouble getting his season started, is playing third base for the Reds. Cincinnati, the second leading scoring team in the National League. They have the highest on-base percentage as a team And they have been terrific so far this year, but so far only second best in a very competitive National League Central.
Sean Markham just a little late here in getting ready. Well, we won't discuss that, I guess. And there's the best leadoff hitter in baseball right now, maybe.
You know, Chu was never a leadoff hitter until last season. He led off 98 games for the Indians. He'd always been a number 3 hitter for Cleveland, but he has really taken to that leadoff role and has been a huge part of the Reds' success so far this year.
Well, they have so many big boppers they can afford to put him first. Here you see the record, the Jaguar stats presented here for you. Sean Markham on the season, of course, coming off his best start of the year, 6 2/3 against a very difficult lineup in St. Louis. He'll have an even tougher lineup here in Cincinnati. 57-40 in his career. And defensively behind Sean Markham this evening, Lucas Duda, fixture in left field, and Keel and Lagares looks like they're going to switch off in center. Marlon Byrd, who's played excellent baseball the last week in right, Tejada, Murphy, Ike Davis at first base, and John Buck, who catches just about every game. I was watching Sean Markham, sorry Gary, and John Buck going over the lineup of hitters at 3:45 this afternoon. I mean, serious discussion, not just fooling around. They were totally into it 3 hours before the game.
Did you ever get to the ballpark that early on the days you're starting?
At home you would, because you took batting practice, but not on the road. And Gary Carter really didn't have any time for me at 3:45. He was doing, get his knee ready for the game.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, proud to be the furniture store of the New York Mets. That's a 3 with the Reds, 3 with the Braves, and 2 with the Yankees on this homestand. So it's a very steep hill for the Mets these 8 games at home after coming off a 3-4 road trip that began poorly and finished very well.
8 games at home, 10 games really where they'll be sleeping in their own bed. So it's a real good time to make a mark, even if it's against some of the best competition.
Well, here is Chu, the 30-year-old South Korean, with a .386 lifetime on base percentage this year, though .456, second in the National League. He's already hit 9 home runs in that home run friendly ballpark in Cincinnati. 19 driven in. He's already been hit by 12 pitches. Holy Ron Hunt. And the first pitch by Markham is outside for ball 1.
You see he has that elbow pad. Anything inside, he will not get out of the way. That's the reason for those 12.
Chu was always a well-regarded player in Cleveland, but he was never considered a guy who could be a center fielder. And that's what he's been asked to do with the Reds, and that's worked out well also, with Jay Bruce playing right. And Markham gets his first strike, 2-1.
Well, they wanted Drew Stubbs, who went over to Cleveland, to be that guy. He was a great athlete, great speed, but he just struck out too much. And that Chu is, even though he struck out a lot this year, 40, is getting on base, as you said.
It was a 3-way deal. The Arizona Diamondbacks benefited as well. As Markham falls behind 3-1, they picked up the young shortstop Didi Gregorius, who's off to a fabulous start for the first place Diamondbacks. Cesar Izturis on deck, then Joey Votto for the Reds in the first. Markham behind the leadoff hitter, 3-1, and he walks Chu to start the ballgame. 33rd walk that Chu has drawn, and again that's second to Votto in the National League.
I was talking about that little tete-a-tete between Buck and Markham. I bet you at what point they said, do not walk Chu to start the game. Well, we weren't able to accomplish that.
0 for 1. Here's Cesar Izturis, the veteran now with his 9th major league team. Filling in for Zach Cozart, the young shortstop that the Reds decided to keep instead of Gregorius. Wonder if they're regretting that now. Chu's stolen 5 bases this year. And Izturis trying to bunt him over. 0-1. Izturis, a switch hitter. Older brother of Meiser Izturis, who's forged a pretty nice career in the American League. I think Meiser started out with the Montreal Expos.
That's right.
So they've both been around for a while. Sean Markham, 31 years old, started out this season on the disabled list. Neck issues, biceps issues. as Chu dives back in.
We've already shown this year Sean Markham has excellent feet, quick move to first base. Former shortstop.
And spending a lot of time making sure Chu doesn't get too far away from the bag. No stolen bases against Markham so far this year. And his tourist pops one up and doing it right there to grab it one away. So that's the first out of the night as his tourist flies to left. 1 out and 1 on. And now the former National League MVP Joey Votto. It's been an interesting early season for Votto. He's been getting on base a lot, but until very recently had not been hitting the long ball. I remember he had knee surgery mid-season last year, came back in September and never hit another home run. And there was some fear when he got off to a less than powerful start this year that maybe that knee was still preventing him from getting the torque he needed to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
I think he's just recuperating from missing half the season or a good part of the season. His numbers will be there at the end.
It was interesting watching Votto during the postseason last year. He became very much a singles hitter.
Yeah, singles and walks. That's really what he's looking for. When he's right, tremendous power to left field and left center field. You can see center fielder Ankiel shading just a little bit to left field.
Votto hitting at 349, and he takes a first pitch fastball for a strike. 473 on base percentage. Just named National League Player of the Week for the week just ended, so he's gotten himself revved up. In fact, he's got an 8-game hitting streak going, hitting .515 over the 8 games. Hot like Murph. And Votto pops one up in foul ground, right over near the dugout, but they'll run out of room. 0-2. Votto starts the night second in the National League in batting behind the Brewers shortstop Gene Segura. 2 shortstops in the top 3 and a former Met number 4.
That's the person that doesn't seem to belong, but he does right now.
Well, a couple of Brewers in the top 4 in hitting, but they can't win a game. 14 of their last 17 the Brewers have lost.
After winning all those games in a row.
Chu at first with 1 out. Markham quickly ahead on Votto 0-2. With Brandon Phillips waiting on deck.
I was telling you before the game, it seems every time the Mets play Joey Votto, who's Brandon Phillips, he's coming off a player of the week, but you informed me he wins about 5 of those a year.
Oh, so the odds are pretty good. Votto was the MVP in the National League in 2010. And Markham runs the fastball inside 1-2.
Well, the one thing the Mets starting pitchers are going to have to do in this entire homestand, good lineups. They're going to have to pitch in. They're going to have to double up in, because these hitters are not going to allow them to just stay away with their quality of stuff.
And there's Buck setting up in again, and Votto pulls one off the bag for a base hit down the line. Chu goes to third. Bird will make the throw to second, and it's on one hopper right on target, and Votto's out. And now the first base umpire, Rod Kolpe, is saying it's a ground rule double. We had the same situation in St. Louis where the ball appeared to be in play and was ruled a ground rule double. Or are they going to call obstruction against Ike Davis?
Well, I think it's definitely going to be obstruction against Ike Davis. Watch what Ike does, okay? Ike stands at first base. Now let's watch it go down the line. It's not going to be one of those doubles like that. Watch where Ike stands as we come back to the play. Good throw by Marlon Byrd. He thought it was going to be another one of his assists. But Ike gets caught watching the play. As soon as the ball goes down the line, he just stood on the first base bag. Votto had no place to go, and that's why the umpire made the correct call. Watch this ball down the line, okay? Ike can't get to it. It hits the bag. What does Ike do, though, after it leaves where he's been? He stands right in front of the bag, never leaves. Votto can't get by him. It's obstruction. Very simple.
That's a good call. I mean, Votto had to change his path, and that's really all you have to do to get an obstruction call. And that's just Ike Davis brain locking after the ball went down the line.
You know what I could do is get back in the play. You know, there's going to be a play maybe with Chu running that it might be a play at the plate if it got past Bird.
So it scored a single for Votto, an error charge to Davis on the obstruction. So Ike's woes continue. He just can't get out of his own way right now. Whether it's offensively, defensively, or here just standing around and watching. So the Reds have a first inning threat. Second and third and one out. And Brandon Phillips, who's second in the National League in RBIs with 36, coming to the plate. Mets play the infield back. They'll concede a run on a ground ball. And a letter high strike to Brandon Phillips.
You see the defense here again, just the opposite of Votto. You see Ankiel shading to right or right center. Big gap in left center for Phillips against Markham.
Phillips right now second in the National League in RBIs, one behind Troy Tulowitzki. Paul Goldschmidt's had a month, hasn't he?
Wow.
And John Buck now fifth after leading the league earlier in the year. Two on the table for Phillips here, second and third and one out. And a good off-speed pitch by Markham, 1-2.
Well, Markham's had some success against Brandon Phillips, and he's been doing it just like this. Even when he's behind or the count's even, he will not challenge Phillips. He tries to get him to chase.
As a consequence, Phillips 0 for 12 in his career against Markham. Chu at third, Votto at second with one out. Markham could really use a strikeout here. Not a guy who's going to strike out many. And Phillips got a piece to hang in there at 1-2. Of course, Markham pitched in the National League Central, working for Milwaukee. He's made 4 starts against the Reds. Jay Bruce, left-hand hitter, waiting on deck. This is a tough meat of the lineup to negotiate. Votto, Phillips, and Bruce 3, 4, and 5. Here's the 1-2. And Phillips loops one into shallow right center. That falls for a base hit. Chu is in. Votto right behind him. It's a 2-run single for Brandon Phillips, and the Reds jump out to a 2-0 lead. So Phillips has his first hit ever against Sean Markham, and it produces 2 runs.
Well, Phillips does the right thing. They're trying to come inside here. He just inside outs that fastball. Just makes sure that he doesn't get beat inside. RBI situation, great for hitters to go the other way. Great read here by Votto. And that's the reason he scored.
So the obstruction call cost the Mets an extra run. 2 runs are in. Phillips aboard with 1 out. And now Jay Bruce, who's riding a 10-game hitting streak right now, hitting .390 over the 10 games. Feels like Bruce has been around forever. He's only 26 years old.
Came up when he was 20, right?
I was stunned to look at the Red stats today and see that Brandon Phillips has not stolen a base this year. Reds have not done a lot of running under Dusty Baker. You can understand that playing in their ballpark because home runs are so prevalent.
And with Bruce behind him.
Phillips has had as many as 32 stolen bases in a season, 15 last year.
I'll tell you,
we'll keep an eye on him.
I'll tell you, Gary, the play by Ike is irritating me more and more as I continue to watch this inning. The casualness of just standing on the bag. The only reason Votto went to second because he knew it was going to be obstruction. He would have been at first, runner in third. Maybe you pitch Phillips different. Maybe you get a ground ball. That's a lot of ifs, but I still don't like the casualness of the play.
Markham gets ahead on Bruce 1-2. Jay Bruce doesn't have the happiest memories about this ballpark. Back in 2009, the first year Citi Field was open, Bruce broke his wrist trying to catch a ball in right field, and it cost him a couple of months. Markham just trying to induce the ground ball that can get him out of the inning. And Sean has worked at a very, very slow pace here in the first inning. Walked the leadoff hitter Chu to put himself in immediate jeopardy. And he's been slogging his way through ever since.
We talked about it before. His last start, he had 4 1-2-3 innings. When he's having that kind of tempo, he works very quickly, tries to have those quick innings. But we've seen so far, if he gets people on base, he just slows it right down.
Well, the first inning had generally been his easy inning. He had allowed just 1 first inning hit over his first 4 starts, but 2 already in this inning. And the curveball foul back. 1-2 to Bruce. Todd Frazier, the New Jersey native, Rutgers grad, waiting on deck. So we had 1 Rutgers grad over the weekend, David DeJesus.
Oh, that's right.
And another one here in Todd Frazier. That's the good news for Rutgers. Here's the 1-2, and he stands him up with a fastball in tight. 2-2.
Well, Markham's certainly done that, both to Votto and here to Bruce. Now, what do you have to do? You have to counter with an appropriate pitch after this pitch. You got him off the plate. You can have double up in, which is a really good pitch for a strike, or something soft away.
There goes Phillips, and Bruce just got a piece to stay in the at bat.
Brandon Phillips was a great base stealer. Not a great jump there, though. Maybe 3.5 steps. They always teach base stealers when you're going to go, you want to stay as low as you can, not stand straight up, because it really reduces your speed. That's what Phillips did there.
Well, he was going on the first 2-2 pitch. See if he's inclined to run again, and Markham will make another toss over there. Not going, and Bruce drives one to the gap in right center field. That'll go up the gap. Bird knocks it down at the warning track. Phillips around third. He's racing home. The throw goes to third. It's an RBI double for Jay Bruce, and the Reds have put 3 runs on the board in the opening inning. Jay Bruce with his league-leading 16th double of the year.
Well, he is red hot. Little fastball away. Even if it was on the corner, it was up. Nice play by Marlon Byrd to get to it. Looked like it was going to be a triple for Bruce. And he watched Phillips cutting those bases like every good base runner does. Going so fast his helmet falls off. And a 3rd run for the Reds.
So this game has begun in agonizing fashion for Sean Markham. 3 runs home for Cincinnati. Still only 1 out. And now Todd Frazier, who just had a couple of back-to-back 2-hit games against the Phillies over the weekend. Otherwise, it's been a real struggle for Frazier, who's hitting just .230 on the year. Inheriting the full-time third base job this year, after having a terrific rookie season last year as a fill-in player at a number of different spots. And he chases the cutter from Markham 1-1. There's Todd Frazier's dad sitting in the stands.
Boy, you see where Todd got his size. Dad's a big man.
Families from Tom's River. Of course, Todd was a big Little League hero for Tom's River back in his 12-year-old days. 1-1 from Markham, and it's up and away. 2 balls and a strike. Well, we said that Markham looked more like himself in the start in St. Louis. This has been a pitcher who looks like he is out of sorts in the first inning tonight.
danger here, Gary, is that as a manager, when you look at your ball club and how they've been scoring runs, is that you really can't afford to take a chance and get behind 5-6 runs. You don't have that potent offense consistently.
Well, the Mets right now have something they have not had in a while, and that is a real long man in their bullpen. Colin McHugh pitched 2 innings day before yesterday, but he's a guy who can give you length out of the bullpen, and he would be the guy if Markham needs help early. Got him with a breaking ball, so Markham strikes out Frazier for the second out.
Well, you can see why Todd has been struggling. He chased at least 3 or 4 pitches out of the strike zone there. A little off balance, something we didn't see last season.
Markham with that diving changeup to get him. So that's the second out, and now Xavier Paul getting the start in left field, which has been something of a black hole for the Reds so far this year. Ryan Ludwig got hurt early in the season. He's going to be out until at least the All-Star break. Chris Heisey replaced him. He went down with a hamstring injury. So the Reds have been cutting and pasting in left field. Paul getting the start tonight.
The problem when you start Paul, who is a good player, but he's been a great player for them off the bench. 6 RBIs, a couple of home runs as a pinch hitter.
They've got Don Lutz as a left fielder. They've got Derek Robinson who can fill in the outfield. So they've got a few people they can run out there in the absence of Ludwig and Heisey. Curveball from Markham misses away. Hasn't been able to throw that curveball for a strike. 1-1. 30 pitches already in the inning for Sean Markham.
The last start, Gary, there were some swing and misses. Also, when Markham threw the ball over the plate, the ball was put in play for outs. Tonight it seems like they're just fouling off his good pitches until they get to one they like.
And Paul pulls one just foul. One almost hit the bag. Already had one off the bag that cost the Mets in the inning. Ryan Hannigan, the catcher and number 8 hitter, would be next.
I always wonder this time of year, Gary, at this time of night, always in May to almost the beginning of June, this time of the day for the outfielders, they can lose a baseball in the sky. So they've got to help each other on anything in the air.
Lights are on to try and even things up, but sometimes that doesn't help at this time of day. Markham trying to find a path through this top of the first. And Paul chases the high fastball and gets him there. Back-to-back strikeouts to finish the inning, but not before the Reds put up a 3 spot in the first inning. Mets come to bat down 3-0. Lineup, Daniel Murphy bats leadoff of the second straight game. Rick Ankiel, an unlikely number 2 hitter tonight. Marlon Byrd gets a start because of his success against Johnny Cueto. And Ike Davis dropped to the 6th spot in the order as the 27-year-old Dominican comes off the DL to pitch for the Reds.
Well, 19-9 last season. You can see his last start was on April 13th. So only made 3 1-0. Outstanding year. 170 strikeouts last year. Those stats presented by Toyota.
Murphy coming off the go-ahead home run in the 8th inning of yesterday's game in Chicago, so why not put him back in the leadoff spot? Cueto was all ready to go.
They already disagreed on the first pitch. No, they're good. They're good.
Yeah, the first pitch to Murphy is in for a call strike. Cueto had the good year last year, but then when the Reds faced the Giants in the division series, first game, first inning in San Francisco, Cueto threw 6 pitches as he throws one up and in that nearly got Murphy. Lost the helmet in the process.
Well, this one was, as soon as it came out of his hand, it was coming right at Murph's head. He didn't know how much it was going to cut, so he got out of there. Good job by Murph, turning his back towards that baseball.
Anyway, that playoff game against the Giants, Cueto lasted 6 pitches, came out of the game because of an oblique injury. The Reds wound up winning that game and the next one in San Francisco to take a 2-0 lead, but the loss of Cueto hurt them down the road in that series as the Giants rebounded to win 3 in a row in Cincinnati. Rick Ankiel on deck.
You and I were both out there in San Francisco, so had everything prepared for Cueto. Plan B.
Popped up into left, carrying well out to Paul. And Murphy retired one away. If I recall correctly, Matt Latos came into the bullpen that game. Did a great job.
Didn't even have his spikes on. Threw them all. Paul just made the catch. Chu and Bruce in the outfield. Frazier as Torres. Phillips and Votto at first base. And Ryan Hannigan. Very underrated for his defensive skills behind the plate.
So here is Ankiel, who has not been striking out at the same rate that he did with the Astros. He's had 20 at bats so far as a Met. He's hitting .300 as a Met with only 6 strikeouts in those 20 at bats after 35 strikeouts in 62 at bats for Houston. He's also got great numbers against Cueto in his career. So Cueto went down with the oblique injury last year, and then this year developed a lat problem, and then while he was rehabbing, another oblique problem.
Well, he has talked about these great mechanics that have set him apart. And they really are kind of Louis Tiant, if people can remember Louis from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Turns his back to the batter, really hides the baseball. They can't see it. The problem, the twisting and turning over the course of 200+ innings has proven to be maybe a detriment. And he's thinking about changing them, but it's hard to change something that's provided so much success.
Right. He started doing this turning the back to the plate in the 2011 season, and he's been one of the best pitchers in the game since then when he's been healthy. So it's kind of being between still and Charybdis. You've got a choice of losing your effectiveness or not staying healthy.
I mean, really all you see is his full back, almost turns his left kind of cheek there towards all the way to third base.
And he walks Ankiel. So the Mets have a 1-out base runner.
Batting second, you know, getting on base guy. That's
well, you have to say, in the week that he's been with the Mets, Ankiel has been a very pleasant surprise.
It's nice to see a guy laying down a bunt when they gave it to him.
Here's David Wright. David just keeps on rolling. 7-game hitting streak coming into the night. Third in the National League with that .416 on base percentage, trailing only the pair of Reds, Chu and Votto. So the Mets trying to fight back against Cueto, a pitcher that they've had a lot of success against. Cueto 6 career starts against the Mets, 1-3, a 5.45 ERA. And Cueto has always had difficulty in the first inning, and so many quality pitchers do.
Incredible difference, though, for a guy who won 19 games.
19 wins and a 2.78 ERA. He had a terrific year. And I think you're right. Because of the year that Dickey had, it became almost invisible on
a division-winning team, what Cueto accomplished last year. You see Wright's recent numbers. Ankiel at first and 1 out. And a fastball strike to right, 94 from Cueto. Nothing wrong with his velocity.
Well, what I find hard about Cueto is that he has two different kind of motions. The one in the windup and the one in the stretch. He does not turn his back because he's very good at holding the runners on.
Gets David to move his feet. It's 2-2.
And that's why he's one of the better pitchers in baseball, because he's always had Murphy's cap off. Now he has Wright's feet moving. And Brian Price is one of the outstanding pitching coaches in all of baseball.
Speaking of Reds coaches, want to send our best out to Mark Berry, their third base coach, who is battling throat cancer and is not with the Reds club, so they've had to reshuffle their coaching staff. Two coming to right, and he chases the slider for strike 3. So Cueto strikes out Wright for the second out.
I thought that sequence of pitches, right? Fastball in at the feet of David. He had to dance around it and then slider away. They've been doing it for 100 years. You know why? Because it works.
So 2 out. Ankiel still at first. Here's Lucas Duda, elevated to the cleanup spot tonight. Despite the fact that he's just 5 for his last 36, Duda's hit the ball consistently hard on the road trip, and he takes this one the other way for a base hit. Ankiel stumbles around second. He'll go on to third, and the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 down. Well, Mets have been looking for Duda to do that more, and he takes this ball hard the other way.
Well, don't forget either. First pitch swinging by Lucas Duda, something you never ever see. Now watch Ankiel. This is a hard call here. It's a line drive hit the left field. He's looking at it. He has to decide. Is Paul at it? The one part that he was watching the ball so much in Xavier Paul, he almost missed second base. He had to look down and find it. But really, if Paul's not on the ball, by the time he touches second, then he can go on to third.
So the Mets with first and third and 2 down after giving up a 3 spot in the top of the inning. Marlon Byrd getting a start against a right-hander. He hasn't had many of those lately, but it's because he's 6 for 11 in his career against Johnny Cueto. And Byrd takes a fastball for a strike.
Well, this is where he decides. You can see him touch second base. He's still 2-3 steps, Paul, before he gets to that ball. So he's got to come up with it and also make an accurate throw. And he also knows with 2 outs, Paul's got to go to second base. It's the play.
Got to keep Duda from getting him scoring position. Byrd won't chase the cutter. It's a ball and a strike to Marlin. And you see his numbers against Cueto. Byrd, since he has been playing less, has been playing better. He had a terrific series in Chicago. Really enjoyed being back there, bantering with his old friends in the stands after his year and a half in Chicago. Dialed back the high fastball at 96 from Cueto, 1-2.
You know, I said this early in the season, and I think there's 2 things that'll make you see like Davis on deck, that Marlon Byrd can thrive. That he plays maybe 2 out of every 3 days, or platoon with Baxter, but you can't have him sit 5 or 6 days, because that's when you do not get the best from Marlon.
Well, his highlight on the road trip was that great throw that he made on Friday to cut down the tying run at the plate. Cueto's 1-2. And again, he won't chase the cutter. It's 2-2.
Marlon Byrd said to me in the clubhouse today, he goes, "You're the only one knows I can throw. You were there in 05 at Washington. You know I can throw." I said, "I know you can throw." He says, "Everyone thinks I can't throw." Well, he's proven it so far.
He's got 5 outfield assists in the first quarter of the season. Cueto 20 pitches deep in the bottom of the first after Markham threw 32 in the top of the inning. 2-2 to Byrd. Grounded to the third base runner, Ankiel, who fortunately was standing in foul territory. That's why you take your lead in foul territory.
But my advice is, when it comes to even in foul territory, it's good to get out of the way.
I just don't think he had a path.
He just got locked.
It was centered.
Yeah, he got locked. There was nowhere to go. Right to left.
course, if you're standing in fair territory and that ball hits you, you're out. The inning's over.
Take your lead in foul territory. When you go back to the bag, be in fair territory. It takes away the throw from the catcher.
It's hard to do. You have to cross the axis.
That's right.
And breaking the fourth wall. Here's the 2-2, and Bird takes the fastball high. Well, Cueto doesn't look like he has his best command with that fastball, but he's throwing awfully hard. His fastball this year has averaged a shade under 92.5.
Yeah, he came out throwing 89, 90. See Joey Votto playing behind Duda. It's a correct play here, 3-2.
Duda will be running. 3-2 to Bird with Davis on deck. And Marlin lays off ball 4. Second walk of the inning for Cueto, and Ike Davis will come to bat with the bases loaded. So here's Ike, who has already cost the Mets with his defense in the top of the first inning on the obstruction play. Dropped to 6th in the batting order after a week of hitting cleanup. Just one hit in his last 30 at bats, and trying to make some quick amends here in the bottom of the first.
Interesting. Dusty Baker and his staff probably informed Johnny Cueto. Do not let, if you're going to have Marlon Bird 3-2, breaking ball, get to Ike Davis. He's in a slump.
Ike is 2 for 6 in his career against Cueto. One big swing here, and everything changes.
I would have went after Marlon Bird personally.
And a backdoor cutter for a strike. There are the recent numbers for Ike. Ankiel at third, Duda at second, Bird at first. For the year, Ike is hitting 103 with runners in scoring position, which is why 135 at bats deep in the season, he has just 9 runs batted in. A lot of high fastballs from Cueto in this inning, 1-1.
His mechanics in the stretch are not the same from the windup. Therefore, if you're not getting your arm in front, or he doesn't have that delay in his motion, the ball's going to be up in the strike zone. If I were out there, I'd tell him to pitch from the windup. 2 outs.
One and one to Ike. He fouls off that cutter. Ball and 2 strikes.
That really has been the problem for Ike. I know I always let Keith talk about the mechanics of hitting, the mechanics of swinging, but as a pitcher facing hitters, if they're going to chase bad pitches, when the count is even, that puts you where you want to be. You never have to throw a strike.
Well, that ball running in on him has been a particular concern lately. One, 2 from Cueto to Davis, and he misses badly. 2-2. So it's been an erratic inning for Cueto as he tries to protect a 3-0 lead with 3 runners on. This will be the 60th pitch of the first inning. Should have brought a bag lunch.
Order a bento box in between innings.
And I hits it sharply, but Phillips, winner of 3 Gold Gloves, makes that look easy, and that retires the side. Mets strand 3 in the bottom of the first. Cueto helped out by his Gold Glove second baseman. 3-0 Reds as we go to the second. Very rough first inning that saw him give up 3 runs. Johnny Cueto able to avoid any damage in the bottom of the first after the Mets left the bases loaded.
Well, when you're a pitching coach and you have a pitcher who has a tradition, a history of struggling in the first inning, you have a lot of these talks after the first, and mostly they're positive reinforcement. You got through it. This is where you start to kick it in.
Because the problem for Cueto tonight is first start off the disabled list. Pitch count is not going to be particularly high. He already has thrown 28 through the first inning.
Yeah, 85 or 90 pitches. So he only threw 58 in his warm-up before this on rehab in 5 innings.
Here's Ryan Hannigan, Reds catcher, having a tough offensive start to the season. He's a much better hitter than 155. Missed a couple of weeks on the disabled list with an oblique injury and just trying to get back to form. He's been back about 10 days. Hannigan has been getting the bulk of the playing time both last year and this when healthy. They have young Devin Mesoraco, who they had projected to be their #1 catcher, but hasn't worked out that way. They love, the pitchers love throwing to Hannigan.
Mesoraco reminds me of a little bit, Gary. Chris Iannetta, came with much aplomb, was going to be the next offensive catcher. And I think the defensive skills have been a little behind.
Off the end of the bat, a little pop-up. And Markham's going to take it himself. It's the second time in the last few days we've seen a pitcher catch a pop-up.
Well, former shortstop, easy play for him.
Saw Travis Wood catch one yesterday in Chicago.
I was also thinking that the role of the catcher, there's so much responsibility put on these catchers that I don't think a lot of the young guys are ready for it. At this level, anyway.
Well, it makes you wonder if you say that, because the Mets certainly are looking forward to getting Travis d'Arnaud here at some point this year when he's finally healthy. The question is, what is the learning curve once he arrives? And how much will it retard his progress for next year if he doesn't get here until very late this year? I mean, the plan all along was to have d'Arnaud here by mid-season, but that's probably not going to work out that way.
How about keeping it simple for a young catcher? Not we don't have to do graduate studies. Let's do not AP calculus. Let's just do algebra.
But how do you do that with a guy like Markham who throws 5 different pitches?
Let him call his own game. They can form some kind of interaction.
Cueto with the comebacker to Markham, and 2 easy outs for Markham from the 8 and 9 hitters to start the inning. I mean, that fractured foot that d'Arnaud suffered the first week of the season really set back the Mets' plans. I mean, the plan was to bring Buck in here, have him carry the load the first half of the season, which he's done, and then kind of hand it off gradually to d'Arnaud as the year went along once d'Arnaud arrived. Now, with d'Arnaud still in a boot for the next 10 days to 2 weeks, not going to be up until probably late in the season.
That's right.
He still needs more AAA seasoning,
especially since missing most of last season.
Right. So it becomes a problem in terms of the development of that position, and that makes you ask the question, will the Mets bring Buck back next year? Because I don't think that was ever in the plans, unless at a reduced price as a backup player.
Well, you have to answer that now. You'd say yes, right? I mean, he's done everything you'd want him to do.
1-1 to Chu, who walked and scored in the first. Markham with a chance for a 1-2-3 inning after a rocky first.
Even the 2 guys have been working together forever, taking a long time in between pitches.
Change-up bounce, 2-2. Of course, Markham and Buck worked together when they played together in Toronto, which is where Markham began his career. Two coming to Chu, and he tied him up inside. Nice job by Markham to get Chu with the cutter and end the inning. That's his 3rd strikeout. So Markham bounces back with a 1-2-3 inning. Nice job against Chu. 3-0 Reds in the second. Take part in a Q&A with Mets radio voice Howie Rose tomorrow when the Mets host the Reds. Receive an autographed copy of his new book and a ticket in the Hyundai Club with unlimited food and beverage. Visit Mets.com/Howie for details and tickets. John Buck leads off in the home second. Mets put 3 aboard in the first inning, but Johnny Cueto got out of it, getting Ike Davis on a hard grounder that Brandon Phillips made a nice play on. And he crowds Buck with a fastball, and it's 2-0. John is now 4th in the National League in home runs with 10, 5th in RBIs with 31. Most of that accomplished in the first 3 weeks of the season. Things have slowed down for Buck over the last month. Just 6 for his last 44. And Cueto throws a breaking ball outside, and it's 3-0. And Buck takes inside, so another walk. Cueto's faced 7 batters and walked 3 of them. You know, we talked about Cueto getting hurt in the postseason last year. The irony of that is that the Reds' rotation during the regular season last year was an iron rotation.
It was.
Other than one doubleheader where they were forced to use an extra starter, their 5 starters made every start last year.
Bronson Arroyo, Matt Latos, Cueto, Homer Bailey,
Mike Leake.
There you go.
Pitches tomorrow night. Here's Ruben Tejada. Ruben had hits his last 2 at bats yesterday in Chicago after a 1-for-27 stretch. Both hits were just dumped into shallow right field after a spate of fly balls on that road trip. There are the standings last year in the National League Central. The Reds able to pull away and win 97 games in part because of their pitching. Of course, they don't have the Astros to beat up on anymore. That's the privilege of the Texas Rangers and that group out of the AL West. Cueto continues to miss high with his fastball, and he falls behind 2-0.
I mean, it's a simple fix. If you watch any pitcher, it's flying out with his left shoulder. If you fly out too quick, the ball's going to be up in the strike zone.
Ronnie, what about the fact that his stretch delivery is so different than his windup delivery? I mean, for every pitcher, it's somewhat different. Is it more so for Cueto?
I think so. I think it's you know, what you're trying to do is replicate the last 3 quarters of your motion from the windup from the stretch. That's what you're trying to do. so that it's the same motion all the time, just shortened in the stretch. You know, he can't make that full turn out of the stretch because then everyone would steal, and he's pretty good at holding runners on.
Well, the guy I think of, I mean, Tion obviously was one, but the other guy I think of who turns so completely is Tejada. Lines one to short, and his Turris has it. Buck only a step or two off the bag. Think of Hideo Nomo, who very famously had that very exaggerated stop at the top, turn his back, the whole thing. Out of the stretch, he still did some of it, and they did steal bases against him, but it was modified greatly.
You know, and I know that although he would only use it a half dozen times per game, David Cohn would do it occasionally when he needed a big strikeout. He'd give the hitter a different look.
Coney was the best at making stuff up as he went along.
Needed like 10 fingers.
Here's Markham, who had a couple of hits in his last start, but up here trying to bunt, and bunts one off his foot. 0-1.
Look at those ERA leaders since 2011. That is a great number, and usually would be leading except for the great Kershaw. This day and age, when you have a 2.5 over an extended period of time, that is getting it done.
Markham pushes the bunt nicely, and Votto goes to first with it. 3-4 on the sacrifice, moves Buck to second. First sacrifice of the season for Markham.
Well, Votto might have had a shot at second base. I don't think it was one hard enough. I think it was good by Markham. Good secondary lead and jump by Buck. But the reason, once Votto turns, Cueto's there, and he's got to get down just in case Votto made that throw. I don't think he had a play, and good job by Buck getting a good secondary lead.
And why take the gamble with a 3-run lead? So now 2 out, and Daniel Murphy will try and get the run in. Murphy flied to left in the first inning. So I'd have to check the service time to be sure, but it's only going to be a couple of years till Murph's a free agent. You think he's going to think about signing with the Cubs?
Yeah, right. Wow.
I mean, Murph now has 4 home runs in his last 17 at bats at Wrigley Field. He has 6 home runs and 442 at bats in the same stretch everywhere else. And he drives this one to right field, but this is playable for Bruce. And that retires the side. No Murph, we're not in Wrigley anymore. On to the third we go, 3-0 Reds. Bobby Ojeda starting in the third inning of tomorrow's game. Just go to SNY.TV, click on the link, and join the conversation. It's Chat Live with Bobby O, presented by Verizon, only on SNY.TV. That is just spectacular, huh?
Wow.
Moon over New Jersey. Sounds like a poem.
That's right.
Cesar Izturis leads off in the third inning against Sean Markham. It takes the curveball high, and Markham upset with himself. That first pitch of the inning slipping out of his hand.
This is a big inning for Markham and the Mets. Have to get through the middle of this lineup.
Behind Izturis, you've got Votto and Phillips, and then Bruce if anybody gets on. And Izturis takes a strike, 1-1. Izturis flied to left his first time up. Reds got 3 in the first. Phillips drove in a pair, Bruce the other. And there's a curveball for a strike, and it's 1-2. Well, we'll have a special treat next inning. Matt Harvey will be joining Kevin Burkhardt live in the top of the fourth. Matt's next start will be Wednesday afternoon, a marquee matchup against the also unbeaten Matt Latos. Izturis pops one up, easy for David Wright. 1 away.
I watched that Harvey game you guys did on Friday, and that was pretty impressive after a so-so first inning, 26 pitches in that inning, and boy, just put the hammer down, didn't he?
They changed the game plan.
Yeah.
I mean, came out throwing fastballs. The Cubs came out swinging and making a lot of contact and hard contact on the fastball, and he went to a whole different program after that. Here's Votto, who hit the base hit off the first base bag his first time up, and then was awarded second on obstruction when Ike Davis didn't get out of the way. That set the stage for a big inning for the Reds. Votto's 59th hit of the season, which, considering all the walks that he draws, is a huge number. I mean, he's on a pace for 200 hits. There's your Firestone Complete Auto Care Extra Mile. Joey Votto among active players with the highest slugging percentage against the Mets. I guess Chipper's out of the league. Gets tied up, and he went around. And so Votto is out on strikes. Fourth strikeout for Sean Markham.
Well, another good slider that we see from Markham, down and in. Anticipating fastball. Votto goes around.
Ronnie, when you get a pitcher like Markham, who doesn't throw particularly hard, but he's throwing sliders and cutters and curveballs, how do you maintain the grip for all those pitches to be able to throw them all effectively?
Usually pitchers that I've seen that mix it up the way that Markham does is that they have a very similar grip on all their breaking pitches, Gary, but what they do is they put different pressure on the ball. So the curveball, of course, is going to be held extremely tighter than the cutter or the slider.
Phillips pops one up, and Tejada is there, and it's an easy inning for Markham, who after a rough start is now retired 8 in a row. Mets will come up in the bottom of the third. Still 3-0 Cincinnati. coverage of tonight's game is brought to you by the Minions flying the Despicable Imp. There it is. And Universal's animated comedy Despicable Me 2 in theaters July 3rd.
You're 2 for 2 with Despicable Imp.
That eye is eerie.
Yeah, right.
Better to see you with, though. Rick Ankiel leads off in the home third. Ankiel hitting second in the order today. Walked his first time up. Attacks the first one and fouls it back 0-1. Ankiel right in Duda for the Mets. Against Johnny Cueto, who's walked 3 in the first 2 innings. In his first start back from the disabled list. His last start was 5 weeks ago. And the changeup misses inside. 1-1. Ankiel starting his 6th game after the Mets signed him and put him right into the lineup in St. Louis last week. This is his first home game as a Met. Cueto throws the fastball by him. 1-2. Hit hard, and Phillips can't get this one. Ankiel has a base hit. So Rick Ankiel continues to make contact and continues to produce since donning a Mets uniform.
Well, it just keeps on trucking, right? As we watch Brandon Phillips, who has so much range, for ball hit much too hard from Ankiel.
All right, we have to get into a discussion about this.
Okay.
Brandon Phillips has won 3 Gold Gloves.
Yes.
He did not win a Gold Glove last year. Now, we just were in Chicago.
Why not?
Darwin Barney won the Gold Glove. Now the coaches and managers vote on the Gold Glove. How can you watch Darwin Barney, who's a nice player, and watch Brandon Phillips and give the Gold Glove to Darwin Barney?
Well, you know what it is? It got so much play that Darwin Barney had that errorless streak.
141 games.
And, you know, that's a great number, but he is not in the class of Brandon Phillips. And I know there's going to be people who are crazy about that. Brandon Phillips is the best second baseman in the game by far for a lot of different reasons. One, he has more range than anyone. He's got one of the best arms you'll ever see, and then turns the double play. When you have a defensive player that not only he's almost an offensive defensive player, he's so good.
Saves runs.
Produces stuff. Yeah.
And that's not to knock Darwin Barney, who again he's a nice player, defensive player, but nobody in baseball now is in the league of Brandon Phillips.
He's just a special defensive player. That's the difference.
He's the closest thing to Robbie Alomar in his prime playing today. Wright struck out his first time up. And he takes the fastball inside, 2-1.
You always have to have that caveat with Robbie, right? In his prime.
Well, his prime. We saw him here not in his prime. And that was a whole different story. David has struggled here at Citi Field, has not hit a home run in his home ballpark yet this year. Mets are playing their 22nd home game. Cueto misses high, and again he's behind 3-1. Lucas Duda on deck. Well, Cueto's got a 3-0 lead, but it's going to be hard for him to get very deep into this game with the number of pitches he's throwing and the short tether that he's on tonight in his first start back from the DL. And Wright takes a hack at a fastball and fouls one off Hannigan. 3-2.
Boy, that was a big swing by David. Trying to get the Mets within a run. Watch the swing.
Ankiel on at first with nobody out. Not likely to be running here. And he's not. And Wright walks. That's 4 walks now for Cueto. And the Mets will get the tying run to the plate with Duda. So it's been an uneven start for Cueto so far. And now Duda, who swung at the first pitch he saw, took an outside fastball and lined it into left field for a base hit. That's a hit in 5 straight games now for Duda. So things are starting to look a little better for Lucas by the day.
Well, defensively, not a big shift. You can see his Torres up the middle, pretty straight up on the right-hand side and deep in the outfield.
The defenses against Lucas this year have been all over the map, team to team. And Cueto really struggling getting that fastball down in the strike zone.
I mean, this isn't even close. This ball is supposed to be down and away, and he misses by 5 feet, 6 feet. Looks like he's fidgeting, like mechanics are off, as opposed to just kind of competing.
Cueto in his 6th major league season. Pickoff try, and Ankiel gets the hand back in ahead of his Torres' tag.
Well, way too close for a 3-0 game. Good job by his Torres. Watch his tag. That's pretty close. That left hand got in because the right hand went right on top of the glove. Watch the left hand get in, right hand on top of the glove. Bang, bang.
1-0 to Duda. And the curveball misses. 2-0.
Oh, here comes Dusty Baker. So Brian Price, he said, listen, I got this. This young man has won 61 games for me as a manager of the Reds. Seen at his best, I've seen him at his worst. He's going to have a word with him.
So what do you think this conversation will include? As we look at some of Dusty's particulars.
Well, knowing Dusty, he's the kind of personality that is not going to yell at anybody. He's going to try to do it in a way that will be a little humorous, but at the same time patient, and also 100% pro player, behind the player. He's always been that way his entire managerial career.
He's had a lot of success. Took the Giants to the World Series back in '02. Couldn't quite get there with the Cubs, but he's won 2 division titles in the last 3 years with the Reds. And in what will be a very competitive division this year, has the Reds off to a terrific start this year. So let's see how Cueto fares after that mound visit. Duda has to be pretty certain he's going to see a fastball here. And he fouls it back. Took a little off that time.
It was interesting. Yeah, maybe that was some of the advice. Hey, listen, don't overthrow it here. Let's just pick a spot, keep it down. Ground ball is what you need here.
Lucas takes it high, and yet again Cueto falls behind 3-1. First pitch hasn't been the problem for Cueto. It's been the pitches afterward that have not been fine in the strike zone. He's already walked 4 in 2 innings plus. He's given up only 2 hits, but now he's got to come into Duda with Marlon Byrd waiting on deck. And Lucas takes the strike. 3-1 breaking ball to Duda.
Well, it shows you right there. He can't get his fastball over. It's better if he throws his breaking ball. It's got a better chance. Tells you sometimes that first pitch strikes can be overrated.
Ankiel and Wright, the base runners, not likely to be going here. 3-2 to Duda with Byrd on deck. And Lucas takes strike 3 call. Fastball got him looking. Second strikeout of the game for Cueto. That's the first out of the inning.
That's a classic case of enticing a young hitter with a 3-1 breaking ball that he throws for a strike. It entices them to thinking they're going to get a 3-2 breaking ball, and they get the petrol right down the middle. Seen it happen many times. You start to think, boy, if he threw a 3-1, he's going to throw a 3-2. Well, he did not. That's what gets him to get you.
Still 1 away. And now Marlon Byrd, who walked his first time up. So the 2 guys who were put in the lineup tonight in prominent spots because of their success against Cueto, Ankiel and Byrd combined, have been on base all 3 times. And now another chance for Byrd. And he drives one to deep left field. Back goes Paul, looking up, and it's out of here! Marlon Byrd ties the game with a 3-run homer. Number 4 from Marlon Byrd, and it's 3-3.
couldn't have set the stage any better. The thing about Bird is that he is an outstanding breaking ball hitter, good changeup hitter, good curveball hitter. And sitting on that first pitch, jumped all over that curveball or a little slider maybe from Johnny Cueto.
Bird now 7 for 12 against Cueto. So Terry Collins' lineup decisions paying off big time as the Mets get those 3 runs back to get even. Now Ike Davis, who grounded out sharply his first time up to end the first inning with the bases full.
Watch this little kind of get me over first pitch. Well, I'm not going to let you get it over. Just a line drive way out of here.
Well, a rare start against a right-hander for Marlon Byrd, and it pays off big time.
Sometimes the manager will see a number that he cannot overlook. You have to put the player in the lineup. No reaction from Bird. Head down, running. Pitcher's reaction. Not a lot.
Davis bounces the changeup foul. 1-2. Well, a single by Ankiel, a walk to right, and after Duda took a call third strike, Bird was ready. It's been quite a month for Marlon Byrd. Got off to a nice start the first week of the season, struggled for the rest of April, but as the calendar has turned to May, he has really produced when given a chance. And Davis goes down on the changeup. Second strikeout of the inning for Cueto. So 2 out, and now John Buck. Buck drew a walk his first time up, one of 4 that Cueto has surrendered. Cueto now up over 60 pitches working in the third. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sean Markham had the rough first inning, but now has retired 8 in a row, and now the Mets have gotten him back even. And Buck takes a rip at that high fastball, 0-1. Seems as though he is ready to hit the ball out of the ballpark. First pitch of every at bat. Doesn't mean he always is successful, but he never gets cheated. Remember when Mets had Rod Barajas as their #1 catcher? That was 2010. He was a similar style hitter in that he was looking for that first pitch fastball he could hit out of the ballpark.
The difference, though, is Barajas was mostly a pull hitter for his home runs, and Buck has shown power to right and right center.
Now Cueto with the 0-2. Couldn't get him to bite on the breaking ball. 1-2. Ruben Tejada would be next. Two and 2 to Buck. And now a full count. So after Cueto got ahead on Buck 0-2, he runs yet another 3-ball count.
And sometimes pitching is a thing of beauty, and then you have this, just a slog, pitch after pitch.
5th full count already in the first 3 innings for Cueto, and thus the high pitch count. 3-2 to Buck, and the curveball struck him out. So 3 strikeouts in the inning for Cueto, but in between, Marlon Byrd with a game-tying 3-run homer. When we come back for the 4th inning, Kevin Burkhardt will talk with Matt Harvey live from just behind the Mets dugout. As we go to the 4th inning, the Mets have drawn even with the Reds on Marlon Byrd's 3-run homer. So Sean Markham, thus refreshed, takes the mound for the top of the 4th to face Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier, and Xavier Paul. After a rocky beginning, Markham has retired 8 in a row, striking out 4 of the 8. Bruce was the last man to reach against him. He doubled to right center to extend his hitting streak to 11 games. That drove in the 3rd Cincinnati run. And a first pitch curveball bounced for Murphy, who was playing deep, waits for it, and he almost lost him, but he gets Bruce by an eyelash for the first down.
On that play for Murph, and good call, just gets him. That foot is almost on the bag. That play for Murph, you can't really break down and receive that ball. You have to come running in and scoop it up and throw it on the run.
Throw it across your body. Very close play, but first base umpire Ron Kolpa got it right.
See how he breaks down here and receives the ball? He's got to keep running in and scoop it on the run and kind of throw it sidearm to close the distance, close the speed.
Now Todd Frazier with 1 out, and he takes ball 1. Let's go downstairs to Kevin Burkhardt.
Matt, as you get ready to start on Wednesday, what's your routine like today? How do you prepare for that start?
Today was a bullpen. Took it easy. Kind of went a little bit lighter today. Then it's my upper body day, so I get my upper body lift, and with that comes the shoulder routine of band work and stretching and stuff like that, and really just paying attention to these guys and seeing what the hitters are doing, and preparing that way and seeing how things go.
How do you look at a guy like Markham, who's obviously a completely different pitcher than you, and use some of the notes from today kind of to your advantage? Really
it's the location. Seeing what the guys are doing, whether they're diving a little bit or hitting the inside pitch as well, and really just mixing it up and seeing what he's doing and what kind of off speed guys are swinging at, and really using that as kind of the key to where I'm going to go on Wednesday. You're out in the dugout a lot, but do you like watching something like that on the monitor, or do you like watching it actually on the dugout? No, I like being in the dugout. I'm not much on watching video, so when it's my turn to throw, I'll go over the lineup maybe once or twice, but other than that, I'm sticking with John Buck, and when he throws down, I got to execute it. Through this run of this early run for you, it's been a great start to the year, and you've had a lot of national attention, rightfully so. What's been the most fun thing that you've been asked to do through all this so far? I like going to the Ranger games. Obviously, anytime you're up on the jumbotron at a different sporting event, and you get a good cheer, that's always fun. So I'd have to say that. Well, that's always a good thing. We saw you pitch in Wrigley, and you, in the first inning, they came out aggressive. They were swinging at your fastball, hitting your fastball, and you adjusted quickly, went to all 4 of your pitches. Is that something you would have been able to do last year to that kind of effectiveness, hitting your spots with all 4 of your pitches like you did? I don't know. I'd like to say yes, but you have no idea. So. Obviously this year it's a little bit, I can throw the curveball for a strike, and obviously the slider's working. Last year I might have only had 2 pitches, so definitely having 4 the other day was the biggest help, and Dan and John Buck did obviously a good job of picking up on that, and needing to switch gears a little bit after that first inning. So I stuck with John, and he called the pitches, and I was able to throw strikes. Matt, is it a matter of simple repetition in the offseason? Is it just a matter of throwing 1,000 changeups over the offseason to perfect the location? How do you get better at location in one offseason like that? It's more of a trust thing. I've always thrown a changeup, but it's just a matter of using it more and really having confidence in it. And right now I have all the confidence in the world, whether it's a righty or a lefty. And John's picking up on that, and he's calling it a lot. So, like I've said in the past, I'm only shaking once or twice per game. So if he's throwing it down, I'm going to throw it. You have confidence in all 4 pitches at any time, don't you? Absolutely. And what makes that such a gift, do you think? I don't know. I mean, I just, right now everything's working pretty well, and obviously got to keep that going. But really, it's putting everything I have into one pitch at one time. And, whether it's a curveball, I'm giving all I have for that curveball, and fortunately enough, right now it's going pretty well. With 2 outs, let me ask you one more. When you look at this Reds lineup, they obviously have some guys that can hit, different guys too. Some guys more on base, some guys power. Who poses the biggest challenge for you? Well, I mean, you obviously have Votto up there. He's pretty hot right now, so you know, he's a tough out. He doesn't swing it much out of the zone. So, you know, for me, it's going to be pounding the zone and mixing things up.
Matt, thanks so much for the time. Good luck on Wednesday.
All right, thanks.
Matt Harvey, guys, taking a little quick time out of his workout today. Let's go back upstairs to you.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Matt. Are you sure this is his first full year in the big league? You sure he's not a 10-year veteran?
Oh, God. What we should do is get an interview that I had my first full year and just show what a rube I was compared to how unflappable Mr. Harvey is.
Xavier Paul up with 2 out, and Markham crowds him with a cutter.
Do you have an idea what he can look at? I know there's 2 outs here. If Markham's not his kind of pitcher, but say Markham throws a high fastball someone swings through, Harvey knows he has that. He's thrown 2 sliders to Chu and Votto down and in that they have struck out on. He's got that. Frazier is swinging at everything out of the strike zone. He's got that. Those are the things you got to think about that as you're watching. That even though it's Markham, even though it's a guy who doesn't throw like you watch that and you go, boy, he's being really aggressive and chasing out of the zone. I have to do that. And it can help you over the game to formulate your game plan.
Markham ahead 1-2 with 2 out. And Paul just barely makes contact with that curveball. I thought it was interesting when Kevin asked Matt about how that changeup has gotten better, and he said it's just a trust thing. And you know, for somebody who was never a pitcher, it's hard to fathom that your emotional well-being and attachment to a pitch can have an effect on its effectiveness.
Well, your pitches, Gary, almost become part of your persona. They become your friends. You know, they are what gets you out of trouble.
Tejada just unable to get to it, and Paul has a 2-out hit that snaps a string of 10 in a row returned by Markham.
They're what, as this hit goes up the middle, they're what sometimes betray you too. It's an interesting thing as far as the trust is concerned. I've seen so many pitchers I've watched on the side, Gary. They go out there and they are darting that fastball. They got a curveball that's perfect. They have a changeup that's on every corner. Then they get out in the game and they don't have that trust. They don't have that, you know, that creativity or that confidence that you need. That under stress with people on base, can you deliver? So far, I don't see anyone's delivered better in a Met uniform. I didn't watch Tom pitch in his first full year than Mr. Harvey. And I'm including Dwight in that because there was I don't know, there was like a learning thing for Dwight in the beginning because he was so young and there was so much outside stuff. I know Harvey has a lot of outside stuff, Sports Illustrated, whatever.
But he has the advantage of being 5 years older.
5 years older, and there was a whole different thing about Dwight. It was like a windstorm, you know. It was just almost out of control. Harvey, because he handles himself so well, is almost able to wrap his arms around.
Right. There was more mystery around Doc because he was shielded from the press, and you know, he was 19. I mean, he was just a kid who had this phenomenal ability, and you know, Harvey is a man. He's 24 years old and able to wrap his brain around the entire experience. 1-1 to Hannigan. He popped up to the pitcher his first time up. This is a nice bounce back from Sean Markham after the way he began this game.
Well, he's a fighter. You know that. He's got that in him.
You know, and we talked about the number of different pitches Sean throws, and I would imagine at the start of a game for a guy like that, it's got to be difficult to figure out what's working, find your rhythm with all your pitches. Although up until today, the first inning had been his friend. Not today. Trying to get the 8-hitter Hannigan so he can have the pitcher leading off the next inning. Grounded weakly down to third. It's a foul ball that came off the foot of Hannigan. Although by the time we get to the next inning, it might not be the pitcher leading off because Cueto may only have one more inning. That ball hit the left foot of Hannigan.
Are we sure that this hit his foot, or is it a good acting job? Well, maybe just. You know, so the thing I found interesting what Matt said was that he threw today. Most pitchers, after they pitch on a Friday, would throw on a Sunday. So he took an extra day and threw light today. So already trying to make sure he's at the top of his game. Everything's working well, so don't use it in the pen. No need to overthrow.
And Markham with a changeup strikes out Hannigan. This has been quite a run for Markham. He's now retired 11 of the last 12. 3-3 in the fourth. Things look kind of calm around Rockefeller Center right now. You know, I know when they did the outdoor shots for 30 Rock, it was always busy out there.
Right.
That's a gorgeous view.
Wow.
Chrysler Building in the foreground.
Empire State to the left.
59th Street Bridge running right by. Just a beautiful town. You know, every time we fly in at night,
it's the greatest, isn't it?
It never gets old.
I can sometimes see where I live. There's the Freedom Tower. I can see where I live a lot of times when we come in to LaGuardia.
Very cool. Ruben Tejada leads off the home fourth inning against Johnny Cueto, who would need a pretty quick inning to earn a fifth inning the way things have gone for Cueto in his first start off the disabled list. He's walked 4. He's given up 3 runs and 3 hits. Tejada hit a soft line drive to short his first time up. 8-9-1 for the Mets in this fourth inning. After Cueto gave up the game-tying home run to Marlon Byrd in the third. John Markham on deck, and then Danny Murphy. Cueto hasn't had a chance to turn his back very often. The Mets have had a lot of traffic on the bases, so he's been mostly pitching out of the stretch.
Nice swing. Quick.
Got that Rick Ankiel swing.
He does.
Here's the 0-2 to Tejada, and he gets him with a changeup. So Cueto has his 5th strikeout and his 3rd in a row. 1 out and nobody on. Here's your AT&T trivia question. The only player to hit 25 or more home runs in a season for both the Mets and the Reds. It's got to be one guy, right?
Yeah, I got him.
You played with him, right?
Yes, I did play with him. He got to the park in a different way than I got to the park.
Well, he had hit a lot of home runs before you got there.
Oh, okay.
Here's Sean Markham, who sacrificed his first time up.
Only we can make the question more obtuse. Sorry about that, people at home. It's just having some fun.
Still trying to get that fastball down into the strike zone. Markham had 2 hits in his last start, and he yanks that one foul. And both the hits came with 2 strikes, which makes Markham the only pitcher in the majors so far this year to have 2 strike hits in one game.
Wow.
Now there's an obscure piece of trivia. I got a better one for you about pitchers hitting. You know, we saw a lot of, there's a happy fan after getting the baseball. We saw a lot of pitchers hitting well in Chicago as Cueto strikes out his 4th in a row. Travis Wood hit the 2-run homer yesterday for the Cubs, right?
And oh, what a homer.
Well, he's a hitter.
Yes,
we know that from his Reds days. So he hit a 2-run homer and the Mets won the game. So here's a great stat. He's only the 3rd time in Mets history that an opposing pitcher has hit a home run with a man on base and the Mets have won the game.
Wow.
And the other 2 times it happened in the 60s. Wade Blassingame homered for the Milwaukee Braves in 1964 against the Mets, and the Mets won. Ray Sadecki, who would later pitch for the Mets, homered for the Giants against the Mets in '66 with a man on, and the Mets won. And it didn't happen again until yesterday. Major lows keep improving. Daniel Murphy has certainly been improving lately. Came into the night with an 8-game hitting streak. 0 for 2 so far today, and he takes it high. 2-1. Murph was hitless in his first 3 at bats yesterday in his first day in the leadoff role, but then his last time up proved the charm, and he hit the go-ahead home run against Kyuji Fujikawa.
So he got a little of this and a little of that in this start for Johnny Cueto. Struck out 5 of the last 6, but he's given up 3 runs on that 3-run home run to Bird. Walked 3, so he's been all over the place. So some good and bad, I guess, you take out of this start.
Now Cueto is due to lead off in the top of the 5th. He's going to be at 80 pitches after this pitch, so I would imagine they're going to pull the ripcord on him. Changeup fouled off, but he's looked better since the home run by Bird than he has at any point in the game.
Well, he can't go too much further. So personally, if I was his manager, I would pull him after this inning, especially if you get through Murph, because he's coming off 2 real good, not 2 good innings, but some good pitching the last 4 or 5 hitters.
He struck out the last 4 since the Bird home run. Now he's 2-2 on Murphy. And Murph tops one. Fair ball. And Hannigan throws him outside, retired. So Cueto, if he is done, finishes by retiring 5 in a row. 3-3 after 4.
0-2 pitch. Hit in the air to deep right field. Looking up is Burnett's, and it's out of here! Robin Ventura with his second grand slam of the doubleheader.
Klondike bringing us this date in Mets history. Robin Ventura had a propensity for the grand slam, both the ones that counted and the ones that ended up as singles.
What do you have, like 18 in the regular season, something like that? Great number.
Was that day against the Brewers, he became the first and still the only player to hit a grand slam at both ends of a doubleheader. And that one might stand up because there are so few doubleheaders anymore. Well, Johnny Cueto's going to stay into bat, so it looks like he'll get more than his current 81 pitches in his first start in 5 weeks. Cueto, a notoriously bad hitter, hit a comebacker his first time up, and Markham promptly falls behind at 2-0. Shin-Soo Choo, Cesar Izturis to follow against Markham, has retired 11 of the last 12 after giving up 3 first-inning runs. By the way, all those runs in the first inning were earned despite the obstruction call against Ike Davis. Well, you can't walk Johnny Cueto. You just can't.
Especially when his hitting approach is indifference.
Lifetime 087 hitter. I thought that was like when a guy takes second late in the game. This is offensive indifference instead of defense.
Exactly.
Taking all the way, and it's a strike. Maybe he's just lulling you into a false sense of security.
He's lulling himself. But maybe here, 3-1, he might let it go.
For the helmet. This is where you just throw it down the middle.
That's how you know you're a bad hitter as a pitcher. So even when you're trying to style, kind of get the bat going a little bit, knock yourself in the head.
Well, we all get knocked in the head from time to time.
I've heard.
And Cueto lines a base hit. How about that? Duda gets over to cut it off. Cueto wisely will stop after the wide turn. Well, we dissed his hitting, we dissed his approach, and sure enough, he gets a hit.
Well, I'm glad, Johnny, you made me look like a fool there. Little top hand, tomahawk, started early. And he was thinking too, Gary.
He was thinking.
Look at Latos. Go for 2.
Latos would have gone for 2. Cueto will settle for first base, and now Chu, who has walked and struck out tonight. That is that's Cueto's 24th career hit in 267 at bats.
That's the O something.
He has 1 career extra base hit. It was a double last year, so he was thinking about his second career double, but wisely decided to stay put. And Markham falls behind on Chu, 2-0. Markham has walked only 1. That was Chu leading off the game. He struck out 6 tonight. And a check swing strike. 2-1.
Markham's probably one of the few pitchers, Gary, that the second or third time through the lineup, he could throw more fastballs because he hasn't thrown a lot in the first part of the game. He could, by the element of surprise, he could use more fastballs in the middle of the game.
Well, he's thrown his fastball only 34% of the time this year. It's hard to think of a pitcher that we've seen this season who's used his fastball less often.
You never see it less than 50, and to be that low. But, you know, even his fastball, he'll sink it, he'll cut it. Trying never to throw anything straight.
He's been very successful with this over the course of his career. He's never thrown particularly hard. He might have thrown, 87 when he first came up. More like 85, 86 with his fastball. 2-2 to Chu. Buck setting up inside. And he got it off the fists of foul ball.
Last at bat to Chewy, threw that slider down and in, got the strikeout. Tried to go back to that same pitch, but hung one over the middle. That broken pitch has gotten up in the zone the last 2 innings.
Buck calls for the changeup. And Chu grounds one toward the hole. Murphy able to cut it down, but he makes the wide throw to second, and everybody's safe. Now Murphy trying to cut down Cueto, the lead runner, but the throw was errant, and the Reds have 2 men on.
Well, I have to say, I don't think this is the wrong choice by Murphy. You know, usually you go that far in the hole, you just get the out at first. But the pitcher is running. You know you're going to have an extra opportunity, extra time to make the play. And didn't even have to rush it. That might have been the only problem. The rushing of it makes the throw go awry.
Cueto didn't even slide.
Yeah, no, you're going to.
They're going to score that a fielder's choice all the way, figuring that Murphy had a sure out at first base if he'd thrown it there.
Yeah.
So no hit for Chu. Not sure it was a sure out because Chu runs pretty well, but it was a pretty sure out. So now the Mets look for the bunt from his Turris. Remember, the pitcher's running at second. And a very short lead there for Cueto.
One of the best bunters in baseball here, Gary.
But he's swinging and he fouls it back. His Turris has flied out and popped up 0 for 2, and the Mets I don't think still are buying that he's not going to be bunting.
Maybe they might have gave him one shot. Like you said, Cueto on second base, but one of the best this generation of players getting the ball down. This is Turris. He's done it his whole career.
His Turris getting a chance to start with Zach Cozart under the weather for the second straight day. Mets still looking for the bunt. And his Turris swinging, and he pops it up. Right retreating. Infield fly roll was not called, and that's the first out. So one away, Joey Votto coming up. Here's his last at bat.
Well, good sequence here from Markham. Big curveball over the top for a strike. Fastball on the corner, surprising Votto, and then that slider down and in got him to check swing. He would love to see that sequence here. By the way, you have to be bunting there. I know what you're probably thinking. He's probably thinking if they get him over, they're going to walk Votto
so
anyway.
What?
So what? Exactly.
We got Phillips and Bruce coming up behind him. Votto's 1 for 2 tonight. Singled off the first base bag and got an extra base on an obstruction call. Then he struck out, as you saw, in the third. Markham needing a ground ball here to try and get through the inning, but Votto fouls one back, 0-1. Joey Votto has been outstanding, getting runners in from scoring position.
Cabrera's doing pretty good this year, isn't he, Gary?
Well, you know, nobody's ever had back-to-back triple crowns.
Might do it.
It might happen. 3 home runs last night. 1 off the league lead in home runs, leads in the other 2 categories.
47 RBI.
That's in 42 games. Votto has to move his feet. Buck scrambling after it, and Cueto wisely stays put.
Guys on Cabrera, you know, Dusty Baker talking about Todd Frazier's struggles earlier today, and he said, you know, guys, game's not as easy as Miguel Cabrera makes it look.
You know, you watched the 3 home runs last night. He didn't swing hard at any of them.
No.
He might have been just trying to put the ball in play. It's an amazing hitter. Markham hoping to get that call. Didn't, and it's 2-1.
Remember the pitch sequence before that we showed? He got that fastball for a strike. Not this time. Turns the count around.
85 pitches now for Markham, working in the 5th inning. That's got only 5 innings out of their starter yesterday. Votto chasing the changeup. 2-2.
Sometimes when you look at good hitters, you think to themselves that, you know what, they're sitting on a pitch and they get the pitch, but it's out of the strike zone and they can't take it.
Markham has that ability to change speeds on his changeup, which a lot of pitchers aren't able to do. I don't know if he just chokes it more.
I think for him, yeah, he'll just hold it back more in his hand.
Phillips on deck. 2-2 to Votto with 2 men on. And he tops one foul.
I think what he also does, especially that one, Gary, is that he kind of pronates. So what I mean is that he'll turn his elbow over. He'll kind of turn it over like a screwball when he wants to go a slower speed. I mean, that right there, a little backdoor cutter.
How do I get this guy out?
Votto's got Markham talking to himself.
Well, Votto's 6 for 11 against Markham, so you can understand why. Again, the 2-2. And he yanks one foul. Cutter in on his hands. Joey Votto, now 29 years old, grew up in Toronto. Hockey's lost, baseball's gained.
The pitch to throw here, Gary, is the danger pitch, is the fastball inside. He has not thrown him one. He's not shown him one. He's not really shown any left-handers he can throw one first strike. That's the one that'll ensure he can get out of this inning.
This will be the 7th pitch of the at-bat from Markham to Votto. Slow ground ball. Davis will have to make the play to first. That's the second out as the runners move to second and third. So Markham wins that battle.
Well, this one a lot more work. Little change up away, slider down and in. Tries to go away with the fastball. Good pitch, close, better pitch with that changeup. Fastball again, and finally that little slider. Not finally, here with the changeup. Just never throwing two speeds the same to Votto.
So now 2 out, 2 in scoring position. Brandon Phillips came up with runners at second and third in the first inning. Had never had a hit against Markham, and hit one softly into right center to drive in a couple of runs. Markham got him to pop up to short in the third, so he's 1 for 2. And just a little exchange between Markham and Phillips after that pop up in the third inning. Big at bat here, and he misses high for ball 1.
Well, first pitch, as you can see, with runners in scoring position, Brandon Phillips' numbers. And the other one's high on that list. David Wright, of course, 1 above him. Phillips missed the hanging curveball, let out a screen, and he and Markham had an exchange where it ended up with both of them kind of tapping each other.
And Markham wound up smiling, which you don't see a lot. 1-1 to Phillips. Brandon Phillips, who started out in the Montreal organization, was part of that incredible trade that the Indians made. They got Brandon Phillips, Cliff Lee, and Grady Sizemore all in the same deal for Bartolo Colon. There's the 1-1, and it's off the plate. The most amazing part about it, the Indians don't have any of those players. Well, they still have Sizemore, but he can't play.
I might argue that Bartolo Colon is the most interesting part of that. Is still pitching.
That's interesting as well. I think I'd take Lee and Phillips, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Although the Indians are doing pretty well without any of them. Gosh, here's the 2-1, and it's fouled off the end of the bat. 2-2. The Indians won again today on a walk-off home run, and they've won 18 of their last 22.
Well, you don't want to put too much on a manager, but he is a special manager, Terry Francona.
Well, they've also found some young pitching that's matured in a hurry.
Masterson better.
McAllister. I mean, all these guys.
Jimenez has pitched better this year.
Right. Remember when Ubaldo Jimenez was 15-1?
That's right.
He's closer to being that guy than he's been in a long time now. And Scott Kazmir, let's not forget about him, who has been the reclamation project of the year so far. So now Markham with a chance to get through this inning unscathed. 2-2 to Brandon Phillips. center. Overcomes Bird to make the call, and the catch, and the side retired. Sean Markham works out of big-time trouble in the 5th inning. Halfway through, tied at 3. Brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Big Al on the super slow-mo tonight.
Big Al?
Yeah. Here's the Mets' upcoming schedule presented by Ridgewood Savings Bank. You can listen to all Mets games on Sports Radio 66 and Sports Radio 101.9 FM WFAN. Night game tomorrow, day game Wednesday with Matt Harvey on the mound. Then the Braves are in for 3 over the weekend. Then the 4 games of the Yankees, first 2 at Citi Field, second 2 at Yankee Stadium before the Mets go to Miami and Washington on their next road trip. Get a preview of tomorrow's Mets-Reds Game 2 matchup, plus an inside look at the Rangers as they return to the Garden for Game 3 tomorrow night against the Bruins. On Loudmouths, presented by Caesars Atlantic City, now at a new time tomorrow at 5:30, only on SNY. Matt Harvey was talking about going and watching the Rangers. Might not get another chance.
Yeah, that's right.
Unless things get turned around in a hurry.
Power play, Gary. It's all power play. You can't stink on the power play. Got to be better.
That's what Eddie Olczyk always says. Rick Ankiel leads off in the 5th inning. Johnny Cueto still out there chucking, 81 pitches deep in his first start off the DL against Ankiel, who's been on base twice today with a walk and a single. And he takes the first pitch fastball for a strike. So Ankiel and Bird combined were 13 for 27 against Cueto, and Cueto has yet to retire either one of them tonight. And there's the good changeup by Cueto, 0-2. Logan Ondrusek is up in the Cincinnati bullpen. And Ankiel takes just off the plate. 1-2. David Wright on deck, then Lucas Duda for the Mets in the home 5th. That's with 3 runs and 3 hits. Cueto has walked 4 and struck out 6. And Ankiel goes down on the changeup. So Cueto has strikeout number 7. And he's now retired 6 in a row.
Well, he's got it working now. It's an interesting game for Mr. Cueto. Almost the same number of balls as strikes. Good change up here to Ankiel. Starts from the corner and just dives down. He's faced 20 batters, 16 first pitch strikes. And it's been tough, but he's in a tie game.
Now David Wright, who struck out in the first, then walked and scored in front of Marlon Byrd's 3-run homer in the third. Walk for David was his 27th of the year. He's up among the league leaders. Loops this one to shallow center. Phillips out. Chu in. And Phillips with an amazing catch. That's not a Gold Glover?
Come on.
Unbelievable.
No one makes this play. The ability to go that far out in the outfield, keep your wits about you, make sure that your head's not bobbing up and down, and just find the right place to run. He never looked for that baseball until he ran to the spot that he thought it was going to drop in at.
I don't know how you can possibly catch that ball without ever looking back.
He just, as soon as he saw it hit the bat, he knows about where it's going to go. He's running as hard as he can to that spot and hopes it ends up there. And when you're as great as he does, it usually ends up there. I don't know if anyone I've ever seen play can make this play. Watch this. Now he's got to time it. He's going to run where he thinks it is, picks it up, and then he has the center fielder coming at him too.
Well, Chu has played with him for a month and a half. I think he knows now to get out of the way.
It also changes your defense. Your outfield can play deep because he's going to make that play. Wow. I might have underrated him. I always said the over and under for a 3-game series is 5 great Brandon Phillips plays. He's got 2 already.
We're just getting started. And Duda goes down on strikes. So Cueto comes out for an extra inning, and it pays off for the Reds, helped out by his friend Brandon Phillips. Phillips was one of the better plays you're going to see all year. 3-3 game after 5. Tonight, you don't get to see 506 very often. Hi guys.
In the old stadium, the Big Shea, you knew that area a little bit. Maybe not there, but
see this area at the top of Citi Field. That's like the mezzanine.
Exactly.
I mean, you haven't even started going upstairs.
Now you fancied right behind the plate as high as you go.
Section 1 upper deck at Shea. Now here the sections are different. Section numbers start in a different spot.
Yeah.
But at Shea, #1 always meant right behind the plate.
Drive in the air by Bruce, right down the line, toward the wall. It's out of here. Jay Bruce on the first pitch of the 6th inning puts the Reds back in front with his 6th home run of the year. It's 4-3 Cincinnati.
Well, we came in talking about this Reds offense. We came in talking about Joey Votto. Can't leave Jay Bruce and how hot he is right now, and how hot he has been against the Mets the last couple of years.
Now Bruce with an RBI double in the 1st, and after Sean Markham worked so hard to get out of trouble in the 5th, trouble finds him on 1 pitch in the 6th.
Bruce makes this look like a tiny field, and Cueto's got to be feeling pretty good, huh?
He's got the lead now. Todd Frazier grounds one down to right, and David throws him out 1 away. Now Jay Bruce, 6 home runs, 30 RBIs now. An 11-game hitting streak, red hot hitter.
I notice the bench of the Reds. I don't know if you noticed it. A lot of laughing and fooling around. There's some seriousness in there. Businesslike.
Robert Carson, the left-hander. LaTroy Hawkins, the right-hander, up in the Mets bullpen. As Markham works toward 100 pitches here in the 6th. Now finds himself behind again. Xavier Paul takes ball 1. Now Dusty Baker rolled the dice with Cueto for an extra inning. Got him through the 5th. He got a 9-pitch inning out of it. And Dusty's smiling. Somebody in that dugout has to.
Dusty's always smiling.
Ever-present toothpick. Most famous toothpick this side of UL Washington.
There you go.
And Markham with a nice pitch on the inside edge to Paul. 1-2. Paul singled to center his last time up. Well, Markham gave up 3 in the 1st, then had a stretch where he retired 10 in a row. Got into and out of trouble in the 5th. But now behind in the game here in the 6th. And the curveball taken low. 2-2. Ryan Hannigan, the catcher and #8 hitter on deck. Well, this is now the most pitches that Markham has thrown this year, through 96 in his last start, pitching into the 7th inning in St. Louis, hitting 100 for the first time as a Met. He gets Paul with the changeup. Strikeout number 7 for Markham, a season high. Let's check in with Gary Apple for a game break presented by your Tri-Honda dealer. Braves in first place in the National League East, 2.5 up on the Nats. Just can't seem to get the engine fired. Taken outside by Hannigan, 1-0.
Well, interleague play for Atlanta tonight against Minnesota, but they've faced Kevin Correa many times with his years in San Diego and Pittsburgh.
Braves just swept a series from the Dodgers, and things are getting bleaker and bleaker by the moment in L.A.
Well, a quarter of the season done. You start projecting that out. Both Ethier and Kemper on a pace to drive in 50. That's not going to get it done. Also, Kemp has 1 home run, Gary. Last season he had what, 12 in April?
We saw his 1 home run.
Oh, that's right, against Matt Harvey.
Opposite field, first row against Matt Harvey. Hannigan hits it out to right center, hit pretty well. Ankiel and Bird back in the gap, and Bird runs it down. Side retired. But the Reds regain the lead. Jay Bruce jumping on the first pitch he sees from Sean Markham in the 6th inning. Bruce is 6th, and a 4-3 Cincinnati lead going to the bottom of the 6th.
Oklahoma City today after a vicious tornado literally wiped out a town about 9 miles south of Oklahoma City, a town by the name of Moore, and just the images are stunningly awful. Jeremy Hefner had, as you can imagine, a stressful day. He's from Oklahoma, and moreover, he went to one of the elementary schools in Moore that got completely wiped out in the tornado today. He's got a ton of family that still live in that town. When he found out what was going on, the Mets told him, yanked him out of batting practice, and he sat at his locker, waiting patiently, trying to get a phone call back just to see if anyone would reach out to him. Took a little over 2 hours, but he was finally able to get in touch with his family. All of his family members that are back there, a lot of them living in Moore, are all okay. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for everyone. Just a devastating scene, and we send our thoughts and prayers to those affected tonight. Gary and Ron.
We're very happy to hear that Jeremy's loved ones are okay, but what a devastating scene in Oklahoma. They say at least 51 dead. They say a 2-mile wide tornado. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, right.
Logan Ondrusek pitching for the Reds in the 6th. So our thoughts are certainly with everybody in that part of the country which has seen such incredible devastation. Marlon Byrd has the big hit of this game for the Mets, a 3-run homer in the 3rd that tied up the game. His 4th home run. He's also drawn a walk. So Johnny Cueto goes 5 innings in his first start off the DL, and at the end of the day it was all terrific for Cueto. He struck out 6 of the last 8 batters he faced. He went 5 innings, allowed 3 runs, 3 hits, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, and a home run, and now a chance to be a winning pitcher. Ondrusek began the year in the minor leagues, a sinker ball pitcher who's had a bit of a home run problem this year.
Yeah, well, he can have that in the ballpark he pitches in, but he's been a guy that's very consistent for them. He's pitched in 60 or more games the last 3 years, but was left off the postseason roster last year.
I wonder what his inseam is. Does anybody in baseball have longer legs? Ondrusek, 6'8", from Shiner, Texas. One-two to Bird, and he got him with a fastball. So Ondrusek strikes out Bird to start the bottom of the 6th. Well, here comes Ike Davis. He's 0 for 2 tonight, and he's been an ongoing source of conversation. Terry Collins talking about Ike before the game tonight.
Well, what I'm just trying to do with Ike is to say, hey, look, it's not about the results. The results will come with the process of taking better swings and getting better pitches to hit. So I'm going to get you out of the 4th spot, because if you pop up with David on, you're going to get frustrated again. And so I'm going to move you down to where, you know what, relax. Reporters are asking him about it. It's all over the social media networks. He's on social media, so he's reading about it. You know what? I'm just trying to have him take a step back and say, look, catch your breath, go up there and be the kind of guy we know you can be.
They'll try everything. Ike hit the ball hard his first time up tonight. A bases loaded grounder, but he hit it to Brandon Phillips, which is a bad spot. And he struck out on a 1-2 pitch in the 3rd.
The social media stuff is a lot of fun, I'm sure, for a lot of these young guys, but it can be viciously cruel. We saw that happen to Josh Tolley. He started his Twitter account, had to close it down.
Twitter is just the latest incarnation, but as a Major League Baseball player or any kind of public figure in New York, the best strategy has always been for anybody to ignore the noise.
Exactly.
And whether that means radio, TV, as Davis strikes out for the 2nd time tonight, whether it means the newspapers, Twitter, whatever it might be, whether they're praising you or whether they're criticizing you, the best way to do your job in this town as a public figure is to ignore it all.
Well, you have to, because even the praise works against you, because you can start to believe it, and that's bad. And the blaming you for how you're playing, and that you should be here or there or whatever, that hurts you. So you just got to stay away from it. It's hard to do now, and I know it's a lot harder than when I played. but you just have to stay away from it. And I would advise all of them, and I know this works against what a lot of teams are trying to do with their players. I've seen some media guides where everyone's Twitter account is in the media guide.
Well, here's the thing. As a player, if you want to tweet to build your brand, that's great. But you don't have to read what comes back.
Well, listen to me. You got to have a brand first. I mean, and how you get a brand is you're really good for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You know, there's no brand after a year. But you know, when you go back, if you're a player, you can see the strikeout on the board, and it's just frustrating. And talking to your manager, and I mean, you get lost. I've been there. And you don't know what to say. You don't know how to act. You don't know how to walk. You feel like people are looking at you. You stop going to dinner because you don't want to see anyone who's going to talk about what you're not doing. It can be a difficult time, but in the same sense, it could be, you know, when you have that success, it's the best place to play. The hard part about when you're struggling is that you're trying to find answers from your teammates. You know, help me out. There's no answers. They can't give any answers. And sometimes, to tell you the truth, they don't even want to look at you because they don't have the answers. Almost want to avoid you. And I've been there.
Bruce catches Buck's fly ball on Drusick, comes in for a 1-2-3 inning. Ike Davis's troubles continue. To the 7th we go, 4-3 Cincinnati. Davis in the dugout before. Terry Collins was showing him the lineup card, and I guess explaining to Ike that he was about to double switch him out of the game.
And why was he doing that? You know, Ike just had a tough night. He just struck out. He wanted to explain to his first baseman why he was taking him out of the game, so it wasn't a double whammy. But still, frustration for Ike.
So Justin Turner comes in. He'll bat 9th, and the new pitcher LaTroy Hawkins will hit in the 6th hole where Davis had been.
The Seahawks, Caesar's numbers so far this year: 2 walks in 18 innings.
Jack Hanahan is the pinch hitter for the Reds, and he takes a strike. Hanahan, who's played with Detroit and Oakland, Seattle and Cleveland, his first National League stint as a left-handed bat off the bench for Dusty Baker. J.J. Hoover, next man up in the Cincinnati bullpen after Logan Ondrusek gave the Reds a perfect inning. Hawkins well rested. He hasn't pitched in 5 days. Didn't pitch at all in the Chicago series. And until giving up a run against the Cardinals in his last outing, things have been going awfully well for Hawkins after a difficult beginning to his season.
Well, I think maybe the temperature was tough, but I think the slider has gotten so much better and tighter as he's gone along.
Runs that fastball just inside. A ball 2-2 now to Hanahan. With Shin-Soo Choo on deck, and then Cesar Izturis for the Reds, who regained the lead in the 6th on a Jay Bruce home run. Jack Hanahan, who grew up down the road from Joe Mauer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he fights off that inside fastball. Went on to play at the University of Minnesota. The U, as they call it.
Do they call it there?
Well, they call it that in Miami, but they call it that in Minnesota too.
I thought they were so much more humble in Minnesota that they wouldn't go there.
It's more about the hockey team.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I got you.
I mean, that's the game. Hawkins with that quick pitch, and Hanahan fouls it off.
You know, it's surprising. There have been some teams in baseball that have been playing in cold weather that have always traditionally had great baseball teams. Minnesota is one of them.
University of Maine for years had a great program. Seventh pitch of the at bat coming from Hawkins to Hanahan, and Murphy fields the roller. 1 out. So Hawkins wins that battle. Aerial coverage of tonight's game is brought to you by the Minions Flying the Despicable Imp and Universal's animated comedy Despicable Me 2. In theaters July 3rd. I might have to go rent the original Despicable Me now
to get through all.
See what I missed. Well, I don't want to pick it up, you know, in the sequel.
I'm just like you.
Be lost.
Or sometimes they're the prequel by the time you get to number 3.
Here's Choo, who's 0 for 2 and a walk, and he takes ball 1. Choo walked leading off the game, scored a run, struck out in the 2nd. Then in the 5th, he hit that ground ball to Murphy, who went far to his left and then tried to make a 70-foot throw for a force at second, but threw it wide. It was scored a fielder's choice all the way, but it forced Markham to work awfully hard to get out of the 5th, which he did, only to see Jay Bruce homer leading off the 6th and put the Reds back in front. Mike Davis double switched out of the game. 3-0 now to Choo with Cesar Izturis on deck. Markham went 6. He allowed 4 runs and 6 hits, a walk, 7 strikeouts, a home run, 104 pitches for Markham. And there's a strike. So Markham, for the 5th straight start to begin the year, will not get a win. So you got 2/5 of the Mets starting rotation, Markham and Hefner, who haven't won a game yet this year. And Choo takes the fastball in tight, and he's aboard with 1 out. And Hawkins not happy at all with Tom Hallion strikes him.
Well, John Buck turned around and spoke to Hallion also, so the battery mates are both upset with Hallion.
Generally, the rule for catchers is you don't turn around unless it's absolutely necessary.
Well, he's still John with Hallion right now, as you can see him going back and forth. And a lot of times it comes from, you got a guy out there who's been pitching for 18 years.
Izturis is 0 for 3. He's hit the ball in the air 3 times. Choo looked like he was leaning toward a stolen base. He's got 5 on the year. He's been caught once. Joey Votto looming on deck. Now Hawkins with the 1-0, and his Turris takes a strike, 1-1. Last year his Turris played with Milwaukee and with Washington. The Reds are now his 9th major league team. There was a time when he was with the Dodgers and he teamed with Alex Cora, and they were at that point as terrific a double play combination as there was in the game.
Acrobatic. Remember Louis Castillo and
Alice
Gonzalez were very acrobatic also, but they used to turn hits into double plays.
Well, I go back to Alomar and Vizquel in Cleveland. Little tapper toward third, right. Bobbles it, but still has time to throw out his Turris. Had to go into the glove a second time. Chu moves down to second, 2 away.
But David comes up with it nice, but you can see the ball almost rolls out of the glove. He has to go back in there again for the re-grip, but still has plenty of time.
Well, that's a great look. No panic, though.
A little panic, a tiny bit.
Oh, just the right amount. It's like you say sometimes that the Mets are going to walk Joey Votto intentionally with first base open and pitch instead to Brandon Phillips. It's like you say, you don't want to push the panic button. Well, sometimes maybe you should.
Sometimes you have to.
So Hawkins issuing the intentional walk to Votto. Out of the frying pan and into the fire to face Phillips, who with 2 RBIs tonight leads the league with 38 runs batted in. So Votto, who leads the league in intentional walks and in unintentional walks, takes the pass, and here comes Phillips, who after making an incredible defensive play to take a base hit away from David Wright in the 5th inning, came back in after the inning and was still muttering to himself about not coming through in an RBI situation in the 5th.
It shows you a serious player. He feels like he always should come through. That's the kind of attitude you should have.
Phillips just 1 for 7 in his career against LaTroy Hawkins. So a big spot for LaTroy with 2 out and 2 on to try and get a big hitter in Phillips. And Phillips fouls off the fastball. Reds bullpen staying active. J.J. Hoover, the right-hander. Sean Marshall, the left-hander. Sean Marshall, who was traded for Travis Wood, who we saw yesterday in Chicago.
Travis Wood really made one mistake yesterday. Big one, though.
The big one to Juan Lagares. Yeah, that only negated his own home run. And a check swing foul, and Hawkins ahead 0-2. Anybody in the game right now who has a bat wag the way Phillips does?
I don't think so.
That's a lot of movement.
I mean, it's not Sheffield, but that's how he generates, I think, his power. He kind of revs the engine by doing that. When I watch Brandon Phillips play, you also can see that he's an intelligent player also. And figured out what the pitcher's trying to do to get him out.
Now the 0-2 from Hawkins, and he Goes upstairs and can't get Phillips to bite at that. 1-2. Jay Bruce's home run is the difference in this game right now, waiting on deck. On 1-2, Phillips has to move out of the way, and it hit either his hand or the bat. And they're going to give him first base. It hit the hand. Hawk, I think, is arguing that it was a foul ball. Let's see.
Boy, it is right off the knob. Right off the knob. Now,
the hand is overlapping the knob.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If it hits the knob or any part of the wood, that is a foul ball.
The double hit because it hit Buck as well. Let's look again.
When they grip the bat, they have some of those fingers overlapping that knob. But watch it hit the wood. See that? That's right on the wood. Should be a foul ball.
And Terry Collins would like the home plate umpire Tom Hallion to ask for help. David Wright coming in to make that case as well, but Hallion, I guess, felt he saw it or heard it well enough, and now the bases are loaded. Let's look at close-up version.
I'm going to stick with what I say. I thought it hit the knob. David Wright having problems with Hallion. Terry Collins arguing. To no avail, though. Scott Rice pitching 2 innings yesterday. Carson's not up. Hawkins got to pitch to Bruce.
Well, I was talking to Terry Collins today about Scott Rice and his usage, and he said in this series with Bruce and Votto, you don't really use lefties because it doesn't matter. They hit just as well against lefties as they do against righties. So we'll see how Bruce does here. He's got a double and a home run already tonight, batting here with the bases loaded and 2 out. And Hawkins gets a knee-high fastball over, 0-1.
I agree with Terry with Joey Votto. I do not agree with Jay Bruce. We've seen in the past what Tim Burdack has been able to do against Jay Bruce.
Although Bruce has had his moment against Burdack as well.
Huge moment.
And Bruce takes that slider inside. Ball on a strike. Bruce this year hitting .309 against lefties. Wright playing off the line against the left-hand hitter. Entire Mets infield pulled a bit to the right. And the changeup misses. 2 balls and a strike. This year hitting better against lefties than against righties, but there's the point that Ronnie makes for his career, not the case. A game-breaking moment, perhaps. 4-3 Cincinnati in the 7th. Bases loaded, 2 out. And Bruce fouls back the fastball. Now it's 2-2. No, Hawkins has thrown him everything.
Went right after him. Fastball, trying to go inside, bleeds out over the middle of the plate, but throws it by him, even at 40 years old. Great thing you have about LaTroy Hawkins, how many times do you think he's been right here? Hundreds.
Bruce is 0 for 4 in his career against Hawkins. Now it's 2-2. Check swing, foul ball. Still 2-2.
High slider, out of the zone, just off the bat.
Chu is at third, Votto at second, Phillips at first. 2 walks and a hit by pitch, loading him up for the Reds. 29th pitch of the inning coming up for LaTroy Hawkins. 2-2 to Bruce. He struck him out. Enormous strikeout from LaTroy Hawkins, and he goes off barking to the home plate umpire Tom Hallion about some of the calls in that inning. And Hallion barking right back at him. But Hawkins gets the job done. He gets the foul tip from Bruce. Buck hangs on, and Hawkins gets out of a king-size jam in the 7th inning to keep it a 1-run game. out of a jam and then immediately started barking at Tom Hallion, and Hallion wasted no time throwing Hawkins out of the game. Well, Troy didn't care. He wasn't coming back for a second inning anyway. And then Terry Collins came out to take up LaTroy's case, and Hallion promptly threw Terry out of the game as well. This is the same Tom Hallion who got involved in a tete-a-tete with David Price earlier this year and used a word that Price objected to.
He threw him out of a game on April 28th and told him to throw the ball over the plate with some other language involved.
Ruben Tejada cracks the first one to deep right. Back goes Bruce, and he'll run it down for the out.
Hallion came back and said he's a liar, that I did not say that. So the back and forth, who knows who said what, but a mix up again, or in a mess up. Here, Tom Hallion and a pitcher.
J.J. Hoover, as you saw, now on to pitch for the Reds. Justin Turner up for the first time, came into the double switch with Hawkins in the last half inning. Turner's bat has cooled down after a hot streak. Started yesterday at first base with 0 for 4. Now 0 for his last 12. As you look at Hallion, who has had words with John Buck during that inning as well. Whereas it's one thing for Hawkins to get thrown out of the game, it would be an entirely different thing for Buck.
Well, that pitch is an indication. If he called more strikes than 100 strikes, you wouldn't have to worry about the altercations between catchers, pitchers, managers. That's where it comes from. Right there.
Turner cracks one toward the middle. That's a base hit. Well, 12 straight Mets had been retired after Marlon Byrd's home run, and Turner ends that and ends his own 0 for 12 streak with a base hit.
Well, nice short stroke here from Justin Turner. Every time I'm doing a game, he gets 2 hits. Been outstanding.
Come on a road trip down
exactly.
there. I think we finally get you on the road the next trip.
Yes.
Dusty Baker on his way to the mound with the left-hand hitter Murphy coming up. He's got his prime lefty setup man, Sean Marshall, ready to come into the game. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Fios. Reds make a change here in the 7th. We'll be right back. Go by AT&T, rethink possible. And by State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the day is Hector Camillo of the Bronx. Contact Hector's office at hectorcamillo.com. Scenes of the 1973 League Championship Series between the Mets and the Reds, which the Mets were not expected to be competitive in and wound up winning in 5 games.
Gary, what's that about people running on the field?
Yeah, I think I see myself down there somewhere. We'll talk more about the 73 LCS tomorrow on the 40th anniversary of that series. Left-hander Sean Marshall in to face Daniel Murphy with a tying run at first and 1 out. Mets down a run in the 7th. And it's knocked down by Hannigan, but taking off for second, Turner, and he makes it safely. Turner was running as soon as that ball hit the dirt, and on the wild pitch, the Mets have the tying run in scoring position.
Well, the reason you can do this is because Turner's a smart player. He's anticipating that Marshall's best pitch, which is a curveball, is going to be thrown. Anticipates it. Once he sees it in the dirt, he goes and gets in scoring position. Nice play. He wasn't even looking back. He didn't care where it went. He said, once it bounced that short of the plate, time to go.
So now a base hit could get the Mets even again. Murphy's 0 for 3 tonight. 0 for 4 in his career against Marshall. And another breaking ball. This one stopped by Hannigan, and Turner holds fast this time. 2-0. Well, Murphy was the late inning hero yesterday for the Mets. Sam LeCure next man up in the Reds bullpen with an eye toward David Wright. Mets have the left-hand hitter Murphy at the plate and another left-hand hitter Ankiel on deck. Two and 1 to Murph.
See the numbers on Marshall. Had a sore shoulder early this year. 73 games appeared for the Reds last year after appearing in 158 for the Cubs 2 seasons prior.
It's a lot of appearances. That'll make your shoulders sore just looking at the numbers. Turner at second and 1 out. 6'7" Sean Marshall delivers the 2-1, and Murphy tries to hold, but he went around, and Murphy saying to Tom Hallion, check it at third. So the anger in Tom Hallion just increases by the moment.
Well, umpire behind the plate has the discretion to call this play. In a big game late, I think you should get help. He decides not to.
Bob Garrett now running the ball club from the dugout. Mets bench coach, with Terry Collins having been ejected along with LaTroy Hawkins. Mets have had only 4 hits. And Murphy takes a piece out of Hannigan. That hurts. Hannigan, who just got back from the disabled list 10 days ago.
I don't know if this caught anything except his leg. Let's see where it's fouled off of.
Right off his toe.
Right off his toe.
There might be an extension of that shin guard over the toe, but it doesn't do much.
Not enough. You know, it was Bob Guerin in the coaches meeting that had the original idea for Daniel Murphy to hit in the leadoff spot. And as Hannigan shakes it off, maybe Murphy can come through here. One thing about Murph, with 2 strikes against left-handers that throw him the curveball, he has that kind of one-arm swing where he serves it into the outfield. And that's probably what he's going to see from Marshall. Straight up defense. Turris maybe shading a little up the middle.
Great arms in center field and in right field for the Reds with Chu and Bruce. I mean, Chu is right up there with Rick Ankiel.
Yeah.
As far as a center fielder with an outfield arm.
Bruce has that kind of arm too, but just not as accurate.
Two to Murphy, and the breaking ball got him. Hannigan throws it down to first to complete the putout, and that's the second out of the inning. Mets have now struck out 11 times tonight.
we see the outfielder. Xavier Paul came up as an infielder, so back and forth infield, outfield, more of an infield arm. As Gary said, Chu, one of the best arms in baseball up there with Ankiel. And Bruce in right field is the natural. He can do it all. Great arm, not as accurate as Chu's, doesn't get to the ball as quickly as Chu.
So now it's left to Ankiel with 2 out and a runner at second. Rick is 1 for 2 and a walk tonight. Struck out his last time up against Johnny Cueto, who finished with a flourish, striking out 6 of his last 8. He's pitcher of record on the long side. Cueto went 5 in his first outing off the DL. Logan Ondrusek pitched a 1-2-3-6. J.J. Hoover allowed the hit to Turner here in the 7th. And now Marshall looking to get through the inning. And threw very little other than that breaking ball to the left-hand hitters. Brandon Lyon, next man up in the Mets bullpen, with Hawkins having thrown 29 pitches and getting ejected in that last inning. As Hawkins went off, he basically said to Tom Howe, "You can throw me out. I'm out of the game anyway. I'm not coming back after 29 pitches." Good eye by Ankiel. 2-0. David Wright on deck, and that's why LeCure continues to throw in the bullpen. You see Ankiel's numbers against Marshall. Of course, they were both in the National League Central in that Cardinals-Cubs rivalry. And now it's 3-0.
Oh, you see this happen so often. Lefty-lefty matchup. Base open. Right-hander on deck. Right-hander warming up the bullpen. A lot of times you see a left-handed reliever walk this hitter. Almost like passing the baton. Why don't you get the right-hander up? Out.
Ankiel swinging 3-0 against the left-hander. It's an interesting call for Terry Collins.
Or Bob Guerin. Little cutter, middle of the plate. Boy, that was a good pitch to swing at, though.
I'll tell you what, though. Lefty on the mound, David Wright on deck.
I agree. David Wright's the man.
From the look on Bob Guerin's face, Ankiel might have missed a sign. 3-1 now to Ankiel. And he fouls that fastball off, and it's 3-2. Looks easy from up there. 3-2 from Marshall to Ankiel, and he hits it hard to right of Phillips, and that'll do it for the Mets in the bottom of the 7th. So Ankiel grounds out. Marshall gets a couple of big outs for the Reds. 4-3 Cincinnati going to the 8th. Brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Let's answer our AT&T trivia question. We asked who was the only player to hit 25 or more home runs in a season for the Mets and Reds, and that should be George Foster.
There we go.
Hit 50 as a Red, not quite 50 as a Met.
In 1983, he hit over 25. I don't remember how many he hit that year. As Brandon Lyon comes in, see his numbers on the season. It's been up and down the last few outings. Has not been getting his breaking ball over as well as he did earlier in the year.
First man to face him is a pinch hitter, Todd Frazier, leading off in the 8th inning. Frazier's 0 for 3, struck out twice and grounded out. Xavier Paul is on deck, and Frazier fouls it back.
Todd Frazier's swing reminds you at all of Mark Reynolds a little bit. You know, the extension through, speed of the bat, and then letting go. A little bit of Mark Reynolds, the way he swings.
You mean MVP Mark Reynolds?
Yeah, right.
He's off to a great start. His best in many years. Part of that Cleveland juggernaut. One-two from Lyon, and the curveball bounced foul. Well, in the National League East tonight, the Braves won again, their 4th in a row. Julio Teheran went 8 1/3, allowed 1 run, 5 hits, and the Braves beat the Twins 5-1. And also tonight in Miami, Alex Sanabia outpitched Cole Hamels, and the Marlins beat the Phillies 5-1. Hamels struck out 10, walked none, falls to 1-7. Struck him out. Lyon fans Frazier to start the 8th inning. 1 out and nobody on. For more, let's go to the studio with Gary Apple for this game break. No miracles for the Phillies today after they pulled one out against the Reds yesterday, beating Aroldis Chapman. Here's Xavier Paul taking a curveball from Lyons for a strike, and that's as crisp as his curveball's looked in a while.
Back-to-back home runs yesterday. Eric Kratz, I can see.
Right.
That's that good breaking ball you were talking about. But then Freddie Galvis, batting right-handed.
Lyons had a few days off, and looks like he's drawn the benefit from that. Ryan Hannigan waiting on deck. Cincinnati 4 runs, 6 hits. The Mets 3 runs and 4 hits. We're in the 8th. Well, the way this game is going, Dusty Baker will have a chance to get Aroldis Chapman back into this game after blowing that save yesterday. He's blown his last 2 now. It's not often that Chapman has looked vulnerable since he became the closer. There's another good curveball by Lyon to strike out Paul. So back-to-back strikeouts for Brandon Lyon to start the 8th.
Curveball, when you're heading the count, go ahead and bounce it.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Ryan Hannigan, who's gone 0 for 3 tonight. The enormous Jonathan Broxton is up in the Reds bullpen.
21 strikeouts now, Gary, tonight. Both teams. Just I don't think it's a trend anymore. I don't know what you call it.
I saw a stat yesterday that the Mets are one of 7 teams right now in the majors with more strikeouts than hits, and that until 12 years ago that had never happened for a full season. No team had ever had more strikeouts than hits, and now there are 7 teams that have more strikeouts than hits.
4 hits tonight and 11 punch outs.
Miguel Cabrera doesn't strike out.
You just can't compare anyone to him. He doesn't know the league.
Lyon with the 1-2 to Hannigan. And he just misses low. 2-2. That's a lot of the heart of the batting order coming up in the 8th, with Broxton apparently coming on. Slider misses away. 3-2 to Hannigan. Donald Lutz is on deck to be a pinch hitter if Hannigan can keep the inning going. Hit sharply, base hit for Hannigan. So Hannigan, who had really been struggling, broke his back but got a base hit out of it.
Well, fastball line had to come at him. Boy, lucky that bat didn't catch John Buck. So it snapped in two. Just bat, Gary. Just snaps in two and it comes back over his shoulder and could have really hurt John Buck there as it just catches the leather of his glove.
So the Reds have their 7th hit of the night. Hannigan a 2-out single, and now Don Lutz, who has drawn a lot of attention this season because he is the first major leaguer who was substantially developed in Germany. He was actually born in the U.S. but went to live in Germany when he was just a baby and grew up there. And while there have been major leaguers born in Germany, mostly to service families, he is the first big leaguer who was raised in Germany, and here he is in the big leagues and getting a chance with the Reds. He's a big kid, 6'3", 250 pounds. And Lutz with a check swing roller to Tejada. Charges and fires, and the side retired. So Lyon with a nice inning in the 8th. David Wright will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the inning. Mets down by a run, and they've got the captain to lead off in the bottom of the inning. Facebook, a chance to win a piece of Mets history, a special edition plaque celebrating the Mets' first no-hitter, Johan Santana. Don't miss out on your chance to win. To enter, visit Facebook and like SNY today. Donald Lutz stays in the game in left field for the Reds. And Jonathan Broxton will pitch in bat 7.
Well, Jonathan Broxton in his prime in 2009 won 7 games as the closer for the Dodgers, saved 36 of them. And now the setup man or 8th inning man for Aroldis Chapman.
He was through some troubled times with the Dodgers his last 2 years there, but seemed to reclaim himself in Kansas City last year, and the Reds picked him up in a deadline deal for a couple of minor leaguers last season. David Wright leads off in the home 8th inning. Wright, Duda, and Bird with the Mets down by a run. And Broxton fires a fastball, and Wright hits it out to right center field, but Bruce should have room at the edge of the track, and he runs it down for the first out. Well, David looking to go out to right center where his power is. Here's your Rowdy Mets box score. Marlon Byrd has the big hit for the Mets tonight, a 3-run homer in the 3rd inning, but the Mets have only had 1 hit since that 3-run homer. Lucas Duda has one of the Mets' 4 hits tonight, single to left in the 1st, but he's struck out twice since then. And Broxton gets a slider over for a strike. This is a heavyweight matchup. Broxton and Duda. And Duda hits another one to left field. This is a flare for a base hit. Takes a turn at first, and he'll hold on there as Lutz falls down, but Duda had already slammed on the brakes. It's almost a triple Lutz.
Well, it's supposed to be a fastball away, but crowded Duda up and in. Sawed him off, but he poked it into left field, and just in the ball game, Ronnie Lutz having a chuckle.
Lives to laugh about it. So the Mets get the tying run aboard with 1 out. And now Marlon Byrd, who slammed a 3-run homer, his 4th of the year back in the 3rd. He's also walked and struck out tonight, 1 for 2. The hit by Duda, just the Mets' 5th of the night. And Byrd going after that first pitch fastball, 0-1. And Marlon had some huge years in Texas. Last year was a lost season for him. Released by 2 teams, suspended. A new lease on life this year and taking advantage of it. Broxton quickly ahead 0-2. Pitcher spot is due up next for the Mets. Jordani Valdespin on deck to pinch hit. Broxton's the first big league player I've ever seen listed at over 300 pounds. Some guys might have been.
Yeah.
Never seen one actually written down as over 300. Byrd tried to hold, but he went around. Ron Culpa with the call, and Byrd incredulous. 2 out.
Boy, that's a real aggressive call by the first base umpire. Let's see the bat of Byrd. I'm going to give it to the first base umpire. That went pretty far by Marlon.
So 2 out, and now Valdespin will bat for the pitcher. Valdespin appeared as a pinch hitter yesterday in Chicago, tried to bunt his way on and was thrown out. Jordani just 2 for his last 21. but his prowess for pinch hit home runs is well known. And he bats here with the tying run at first and 2 out. And Broxton delivers the fastball high for ball 1. Just outside, 2-0. John Buck would be next. Jonathan Broxton, the 5th Cincinnati pitcher of the night so far. The Reds bullpen has worked 2 2/3, allowed no runs and 2 hits. Broxton behind on Valdespin, 2-0. It fouls back.
Boy, he had a cut at it, though. One thing about Valdespin, when we see him in the pinch hitting role, so aggressive.
Well, he's hit 6 career pinch hit home runs, 5 last year, a Mets club record for a single season. He's just 2 off the career mark for pinch hit home runs for the Mets, held by Mark Carrion. Broxton, who used to bring it up there at 99 miles an hour. Not quite the hard thrower he once was. And now he's behind on Valdespin, 3-1. Officially 6'4", 309.
In the NFL, everyone wants to be over 300 if you play a certain position, but like you said, I've never heard anyone over 300.
3-1 now to Valdespin. And Jordani breaks his bat, grounds 1 to Phillips. Sign retired. So Broxton works around a hit by Duda. That sends it off to the 9th inning. Flying the Despicable Imp and Universal's animated comedy Despicable Me 2 in theaters July 3rd. Ninth inning at Citi Field. Greg Burke, who has been terrific since coming back from Las Vegas, will try and keep this a one-run game.
Well, 5th appearance, and he has been fantastic. That strikeout he had in yesterday's ball game was just so needed with 1 out and a runner on 3rd. But he has honed his mechanics, thrown more to the plate, more square, and that's made a big difference.
Top of the batting order for the Reds as they look for insurance in the ninth. Shin-Soo Choo, Cesar Izturis, and Joey Votto. LaTroy Hawkins and Brandon Lyon each worked a scoreless inning in relief. And now Burke trying to give the Mets a shot in the bottom of the ninth. Choo has walked twice today, otherwise 0 for 2.
You know, Ronnie, Burke's still really developing his style a little bit. I mean, this being still kind of new to him. He admitted that he didn't kind of lost his way stepping in the bucket, pitching the lefties, things like that. He said when he went to Vegas, 5 straight days he worked on the mound. All he did was work on striding, getting a consistent feel and stepping towards the plate. And you know who he watched film of? Ex-Met Joe Smith. Remember him now with the Indians? He said, you know, I watched him. I liked him because he's athletic. He bends over slightly, and I've started to do that a little bit. I feel like it helps me get under the ball a little bit better.
Well, that's a good piece, Kevin. When Greg first came up with the Mets made the Mets this April, he used to stand straight up and down and then bend at the waist and then deliver the pitch. And like you said, now he's trying to start closer to that initial position by being bent over and not having to really accentuate it when he pitches.
You know, the other thing that Greg does a little differently than a lot of righty sidearmers is he steps on that first base side of the rubber. And I asked him why, and he said, you know, I feel like it gives me more control over the plate using my fastball.
A couple of fastballs have gotten him even with Choo. And Choo lifts one to deep right center. Ankiel racing back deep in the gap, and he runs it down. One long out to start the ninth. Let's see what's coming up on WB Mason Postgame Live and check in with Chris Carlin and Jim Duquette. All right, guys, we'll check in with you after the game. Here's Cesar Izturis, is 0 for 4 tonight. And Burke misses wide for ball 1. Murphy comes in to handle the hop, and quickly there are 2 out. There are your City probables for the next 2 games in this series. John Neese will pitch tomorrow night against Mike Leake, and then Wednesday afternoon a matchup of unbeatens as Matt Harvey takes on Matt Latos. That's Matt with 2 T's against Matt with
1 T.
Barely 1.
More tattoos though.
More tattoos, fewer T's. Could be a slogan, right? More tats, fewer T's.
Did I tell you what happened to me? I was in Atlanta yesterday, and some people with the Braves all came up and asked, hey, when's Harvey pitching? Does he pitch against us? I said, no, he's pitching on Wednesday against the Reds. Everyone disappointed. They all wanted to take a peek at the Matt Harvey phenomenon.
Now, you're not talking about the Braves players.
No, the players don't want to face him. I'm talking about the broadcasters and such.
Votto rips the base hit into center. His second hit of the night. Hit number 8 for the Reds. Thought it was good for 2 hits just about every day. 9-game hitting streak, hitting over 500 during that stretch. Well, Aroldis Chapman, who has blown his last 2 save opportunities, including yesterday against the Phillies, getting ready to pitch the 9th inning for the Reds, who are hoping to get him more than 1 run to work with. Brandon Phillips has driven in 2 tonight with a single back in the first. Reds got 3 in the first against Sean Markham. Mets tied it on Bird's 3-run homer, but Jay Bruce's home run leading off the 6th put the Reds in front, and it stayed that way. Phillips 1 for 3 on the night. Got hit by a pitch, we think, his last time up, and he chops one over the mound toward the middle. Murphy with the backhand, and he gets the out at second. What a play by Daniel Murphy. Didn't look like he had any chance to get there, and then able to make the feed to Tejada, and they get the force on bottom. Murphy shining with the glove. He's been watching Brandon Phillips. To the bottom of the ninth we go. Mets down a run. Jonathan East pitches for the Mets. Mike Leake goes for the Reds. Our coverage begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Mets and Reds right here on SNY. Well, Aroldis Chapman, trying to shake off back-to-back blown saves, comes on to try to protect a one-run lead in the ninth.
You can see his numbers this year, but last year, what an outstanding season. 1.51 ERA, 71 2/3 innings pitched, 35 hits, and 122 strikeouts.
Last year, the National League was blessed with 2 historic performances by closers, by Chapman and Craig Kimbrell. John Buck leads off and swings through that 97-mile-an-hour fastball. 0-1. Chapman blew a save Thursday in Miami, and then yesterday in Philadelphia gave up the back-to-back home runs in the bottom of the ninth to Eric Kratz and Freddie Galvis to walk off with a loss. It was a Cholula hot sauce 97-mile-an-hour flamethrower. He throws the breaking ball and gets Buck to swing, and it's 0-2. John is 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. Ruben Tejada on deck, and then Justin Turner, lower third of the Mets batting order against Chapman, bought 3 right-hand hitters, which gives them a little better shot at it. Because Chapman is almost impossible for the lefties to hit. But he strikes out Buck. 3 pitches, last one at 100 miles an hour. 1 down in the last of the ninth.
We were a little premature with the Cholula, by the way. 100 miles an hour on that fastball.
That was more iconic.
There we go.
Triple digits.
I don't know if you can catch a closer like Chapman at a worse time. Can you? Blowing 2 saves.
Pitching angry. Well, they toyed with the idea this spring yet again of making Chapman a starting pitcher, and abandoned that plan in the middle of March and put him back where he belongs, in the bullpen. Ruben Tejada 0 for 3 tonight and tries to hold the swing. That's a strike. 1-1.
You just have to start it so early that identifying whether it's in the strike zone or not sometimes just almost too tough. You've almost got to start it before you identify where it's going to be. Hard to hit like that.
Chapman's now in his 3rd full season with the Reds after defecting from Cuba. Signed a 6-year contract. Just 25 years old. And he has been a phenomenon since the day he arrived. 2-1. And Tejada cracks one to right center field, but Bruce has it lined up. And that's the second out. So the Mets are down to their final out. Geico Sports Night, the only show that's only New York sports tonight. The Knicks are done. The Rangers trying to avoid being done. Join the conversation. Hashtag SNY Sports Night tonight after the post game. Only on SNY. So the Mets are down to their final out. Justin Turner will try and keep it going. Turner came in a double switch and had a base hit in his only at bat. Mets got a 3-run homer from Marlon Byrd in the 3rd. They've had just 2 base runners since. 99 from Chapman. 0-1 to Turner. Well, the Mets won a couple of 1-run games in Chicago over the weekend, but find themselves on the short end in a 1-run game and down to their final out. Nothing but heat. And now the Mets are down to their last strike. A multiple Cholula performance by Aroldis Chapman. Oh, 2 to Turner. And that missed at 100. If Turner can keep it going, Daniel Murphy would be next. Here's the 1-2. And Turner down swinging, and the ball game is over. An impressive bounce back for Aroldis Chapman. 2 strikeouts and a 1-2-3 ninth. And on the strength of Jay Bruce's go-ahead home run, Johnny Cueto gets a win in his first outing off the DL, and the Reds take the opener of the series 4-3.